Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'll stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, Madam Clerk, could we have the roll call, please?
Mr. David Girardi?
Here.
Mr. Derek Motley?
Here.
Mr. Peter Hansel?
Here.
Mr. John Moody?
Here.
Mr. Christopher Poole?
Here.
Mr. Chris Williams?
Here.
Chairman Charles Gray?
Here. And the proof of publication, please.
The items are advertised in the Tampa Bay Times on August 23rd, 2023 and August 27th, 2023, or by affidavit of certified mailings and signatures.
All right. Could everybody hear that? I know we had some conversation out in the audience. Excuse me, sir? We're trying to hear. If you could just whisper. Okay, thank you. Let's have minutes to approve. Can we have the approval of the minutes, please?
I don't think there are many minutes, Chairman.
Okay. Then I would like anybody who plans to give testimony today, if you'd stand and be sworn. You can stand right there, Barbara. Please stand, raise your right hand. And if you plan to speak today.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody today. We're the Planning Commission, and we're appointed by the County Commissioners, and we meet twice monthly. We serve as a local planning agency, and we hold public hearings and transmit to the Board of County Commissioners recommendations on comprehensive plan amendments, land development code amendments, rezoning, conditional use requests, and the Planning Commission is the final decision-making body for special exceptions, certain appeals, variance requests, and certain alternative standard requests. However, final decisions may be appealed to the Board of County Commissioners. If anyone is in opposition to any recommendation that we make to the County Commission, it's support for you to attend the appropriate County Commission meeting. Those of you not familiar with the format of the meetings, they are as follows. We have 3 sections: continuances, consent, and regular items. There are items on, I don't believe we have any continuances today, do we?
We do have one continuance item,
One?
Mr. Chair.
Okay. So we have continuances, we have consent, and we have regular items. It's been our custom to grant these continuances if they're requested by the staff or the applicant, unless there are extenuating circumstances, and we'll go through the consent items one at a time, and that'll be voted on all at once. If there's something on consent you'd like to have heard or discussed, or you want to get up and speak on it, when I read out the item, please raise your hand and we'll pull it from consent to go into the regular items, and those items will all be talked about, voted on, and discussed separately. Applicants will have 3 minutes to make their presentation, and the objectors or audience will have 3 minutes to state their concerns, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to come back up and answer those concerns. There's been a request at least 24 hours in writing prior to this meeting for extra time. It may be granted subject to the approval of the chairman. For those of you who have cell phones, I assume most of you did, this is a good time to put them on the silent mode so we won't have the phone ringing in the middle of somebody's presentation. Okay. And before we start the meeting, let me just say that anyone who has comments about anything that's the subject of this meeting, it's important for you to address the board as a board rather than to individuals. And please be courteous at all times. Before we start the regular meeting, we're open the meeting for public comment on items that are not appearing on the agenda. So if there's someone here today that's here to speak on something that is not on today's agenda, would you please raise your hand? Okay. If you have something to speak that's not on the agenda, you may come forward and state your name and address, please, and let us know what your concern is.
Deanne Pelfrey. I'm not even sure if this is the right meeting, but I've had numerous people come up to me and asking me about another meeting that I attended about the $500 assessment that the county is going to be adding to our taxes for road paving.
Yeah, that's not anything that we would be deciding
Okay,
here.
so that's not you.
No.
Okay.
David, any comment on that?
I believe that ordinance is going to be discussed by the board on September 19th.
By another board?
By, not this board, the Board of County Commissioners on September 19th.
County commissioners.
And can somebody remind me, September 19th is in Newport Richey?
It would be at the West Pasco Government Center.
Yeah, so it would not be in
Citizens
this,
Drive,
it would not be this building, it would be the one in Newport Richey.
Okay.
in the boardroom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, Denise.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, we did have someone signed up to speak on WebEx, but that person has not joined us on WebEx.
Okay.
Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. The first item is PC1, PDD 237679. It's for a zoning amendment for Schrader 52CC MPUD Master Plan Unit Development, Mary Burke and Thomas Schrader. Your agenda does state that the continuance is to October. The correction is that the continuance is to the September 21st, 2023 Planning Commission meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey. Yes, that's correct, September 21st, apologize. Confused myself with
9/21.
September 19th, which is the board.
So, Mr. Chair, since that's a different date than what's in the agenda, could you just see if there's anybody here to
Okay.
comment on the continuance?
Is the applicant present? Okay, is anyone here to object to the continuance?
And for the record, I have no one on WebEx signed up to speak in opposition to that.
Okay, I assume the applicant doesn't object. Okay. All right, so I think that's the only continuance we have requested for. So can I hear a motion?
Motion to continue,
Second?
That's to the September.
September 21st, Newport Richey.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carries.
Following item is PC2, PDD 237736 is a zoning amendment, the name of Martha Dexter, for rezoning from AR agricultural residential to an R1MH single-family mobile home district. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
All right, I think we had a request to pull that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear that.
Okay, so that one will be pulled and that'll be moved to the regular items.
Okay. Following item is PC3, that's PDD 237697, zoning amendment, Ruben A. and Martha J. Sanchez, for a change in zoning from AR agricultural residential district with conditions to an AR agricultural residential district. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
Yeah, I think we wanted that one pulled too.
Okay.
Right.
Move on to PC4, PDD 230401, small scale comprehensive plan amendment, CPAS 2305. This crossings at Sun Lake. You're sitting as the LPA on this matter. It's to provide for a comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map 2-15 and sheet 12 from IL industrial light to commercial on approximately 3.69 acres located at the intersection north of Sun Lake Boulevard Extension and State Road 52. We ask that you find it consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommend approval to the BCC. There will be a companion zoning item to C2 on this parcel. The property owner intends to develop the property in accordance with C2 uses. Will be putting in a Live Local Act specification on the voluntarily agreed upon deed restriction in the rezoning. There is a finding of fact in your comp plan agenda memo, and there are some uses that will also be prohibited in the location. So again, we ask that you find it consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I have a question about this.
Yes,
one.
sir.
So, I don't know if you want to hear it or not, but Denise, I know this is not your item, but in the site details and the agenda memo for the parcel, it says proposed use, light industrial flex. So my question is, if they're moving to commercial, why is the proposed use light industrial flex?
So I can intent to answer that question because this parcel is part of a larger parcel to the north that will have industrial uses. Originally, when this parcel was rezoned to commercial and industrial, the intent was to have commercial along the front, industrial along the back, and specific uses. So I think that's why that word industrial flex is probably being used, because it's going to be
I would have agreed with you
developed in conjunction.
if we were talking about the parcel, the IL parcel, but this appears to be talking about the parcel that's changing,
Okay, well that,
the 3.69 acres that's changing.
would
And
you like
it's saying the proposed future land use is COM, and then it's saying the proposed use is light industrial flex, which that doesn't seem like you would want to change to COM if you're proposing light industrial flex. So maybe you just need to pull it from consent, and I can ask.
Yeah,
that.
let's do that. Let's
We'll
pull
pull it
from
from
consent, okay?
No, there's no consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I don't think
That's an easy decision.
That's the point he's making, I think. Okay,
All right, there goes the consent agenda.
yeah, cool, okay. All right,
You guys didn't want to go home early any day?
no,
All right, so you want to go back back to PC2?
yes.
Are there specific questions, or do you want me to, I don't know that I actually have a PowerPoint for that one.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to PC2.
Okay.
Is the applicant present?
I believe the applicant is right behind me.
Okay. Do they want to make a presentation of any kind?
I don't have a PowerPoint on that one,
Do they like to make a verbal presentation?
so I can go over the
Okay.
the information.
That's fine.
Okay, so currently the parcel is zoned AR agricultural residential, which by definition is a 1 acre lot. The parcel is 1.05 acres, located on the north side of Clearview Drive, approximately 500 feet east of Land Drive. And the property owner wants to a rezoning to R1MH, single family mobile home district, which by definition are 20,000 square foot lots, in order to subdivide the property to have a second home on the newly created lot. That is what's being proposed.
Okay.
So I believe that the planning commission may have some questions on that.
Can you
Yeah.
put up the zoning map?
Of course.
There's no kind of an aerial of that area or anything we can put up?
We'll bring everything up for you. Just
Okay, thanks.
So is that what you wanted to see, the zoning map?
Yes.
Okay.
But is it possible that you can do it from like Pasco Mapper or the
Yes.
property appraiser?
includes Res 3 and Res 1.
And can you zoom out a little? Perfect. Okay, so the parcels immediately adjacent to this parcel are all zoned AR, but I see that there's a few R1 MHs in the neighborhood.
Correct.
And I'm curious, in reading the kind of history, it talks about that there were a few of these parcels rezoned from AR to R1MH with conditions. Do we know what the conditions were?
They were the standard conditions. When we used to put conditions on zonings, that basically said that either they have to go through a subdivision review if it was required, calculation of allowable density and intensity, those type of things.
Okay. Can you put up the land use map?
Absolutely. Can you put up the land use for the person? Okay.
So this is a curiosity question. It's Res 1 immediately to the east of this lot, and this lot is right on the boundary of Res 3.
Yes.
I was perplexed when I looked at the map in that the boundary between Res 1 and Res 3 is drawn right through a middle of a subdivision, an existing subdivision plat.
Yes.
And I couldn't figure out any rhyme or reason why that would be.
Yeah, I don't
So-
have an answer for the rhyme or reason either.
So the reason that I wanted to hear this case is I'm betwixt and between on this. Yes, under the Res 3 future land use category, you could theoretically put 3 dwelling units per acre, but it doesn't seem to make sense with what's immediately to the east and the zoning that's immediately to the north, south, east, and west of the property. And I recognize that there are other R1 MH properties in proximity,
Yes.
but they're not immediately adjacent.
Right. Did you also see the parcel that's across the street to the south that got a density variance?
And I'm curious what is exactly was a density.
Density variance is something that existed in the 1980s, where in this particular case, the person, so I looked at this item, the person came in to apply for a different zoning district, but was actually issued a density variance to allow having two home sites on 1.05 acres. Doesn't exist anymore today, but it was something that was available back in the 80s.
Also, John, too, I'd point out that all the R1 MHs that are there are in the R3
Yes.
future land
Yeah,
use.
Yeah.
So there's none on
Right,
the R1
they
side.
couldn't do that in the R1, that wouldn't qualify
Right.
in the R1.
Correct. And you do also have a finding, your finding of fact number 9, that long-range planning reviewed it and they didn't have any comments, they didn't have any
Well, I understand
concerns.
long-range, that might be that long-range planning reviewed it, but I'm a little sensitive to this particular issue in that I happen to live on AR-zoned property. And I don't think I'd be too happy if the neighbors on either side of me decided that they wanted to split their lots, and in my case, I could split it into 3 or 4 lots and turn it into a de facto mobile home park, when that's not the character of my neighborhood. Now, I did look at street views on this property, and I will say that given what's around the applicant's property, I can't say that I blame them that they want to split this lot In fact, I'm curious why code enforcement isn't out there cracking down on all the illegal dwelling units on that street. I went down the Google Street View, and those were pictures taken in April of 2022. And I think just to the east of the applicant's property, there's somebody there with one of Ted's sheds that you can buy on the side of the road sitting in the front yard that's clearly a dwelling unit. 2 mobile homes on the property. And in the AR zoning district, you're allowed single-family homes or mobile homes on, quote, individual lots. And they're not, and it's all over the neighborhood. So I can see why they'd want to do it. All their neighbors are collecting rent or have relatives living cheaply on their properties in violation of the zoning code. But I know that if this started happening in my neighborhood, I'd start to get upset about it. And my concern is, I don't want to start a precedent where if you've got AR zoned lots that you can just come in and start splitting them, asking for R1MH zoning and doubling the density in an area, and then these folks don't have to do anything that we require of our regular developers. In fact, one of the findings of fact was that the road was a substandard road, but since this particular zoning action wouldn't generate more than 20 trips to the road, they're exempt from the substandard road. Well, that's all good until the next neighbor does it, and the next neighbor does it, and the next neighbor does it, and now I've got 100 trips or 200 trips. And the other thing that I see too is, I think the people that have the AR zoning around them have an expectation of setbacks in that district. In the AR zoning district, there's a 50-foot front yard setback and a 25-foot side yard setback. But once we change it to R1MH, then it's a 30-foot front setback and a 15-foot side setback. So if I have the AR property, my expectation is the closest my neighbor's house can be to the side of me is 50 feet, because it's 25 feet on my side and 25 feet on the other. Now all of a sudden that's reduced. So I'm not sure, and the reason that I pulled this is because I wanted to hear from the other board members and what you think.
So,
In
Mr.
some
Chair,
ways,
so,
I can see.
Mr. Moody, before it seems like we're kind of getting toward board discussion, but I don't think we've
Okay.
heard from the applicant yet. So I think we need to hear from
Sure.
the applicant before we start getting into discussion among the board members.
Fair enough.
Okay, and I did ask at the very beginning if the applicant would like to make their presentation, and I think what I've heard was that they don't have a presentation. So,
Well, maybe now that they've heard Mr. Moody's concern, maybe they
So-
could at least address the concern.
Well, they do get rebuttal, so.
Well,
let me just ask, would the applicant, in light of the current concerns you've heard, would the applicant like to make some statements or bring us up to date on what your intentions are, what your thinking is? Who's the applicant? Okay. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just we need your names
My
and
hearing's a little
addresses.
bad, so I'm missing half of what's going on.
Okay, just need your names and your addresses.
Martha Dexter. And you want my residence or what? My
Yes.
residence is 5316 Casanova Drive, Newport Richey, Florida, 34655.
So you don't live on this site?
I can't hear that.
No, she does not.
Okay.
sir, can we get your name and address for the record?
Yeah, we need that too.
Darren Deach, 4827 Pennicott Way, West Shepard.
And were you both sworn?
Yes. Particularly notice those two.
Right in front row.
Okay, did you hear the concerns that Mr. Moody was expressing?
Yeah.
And would you like to address those in light of the fact that she may not have heard the whole thing?
So there was a 50, 60-year-old mobile home on that property that was in terrible repair.
We need to get you a little closer to the mic.
Sorry. There was a 50 or 60-year-old mobile home on the property that was in disrepair. She just knocked that down and put a brand new, really nice 5-bedroom on it, cleaned up the yard, and the thinking behind the splitting was, so that's an income rental property for her. is develop the other side to possibly move over sometime soon, as she's over in Newport Richie, and it's very far for me to go over to help her out with anything around the house, so she may basically be closer to me. So I live about 8 minutes away.
And do you live on the property?
I'm not,
No.
So you would have 2 rental properties, is that what you're talking about?
2 rental properties until she is, you know.
Yeah, I got you.
So,
Okay.
And can I ask you a question? The building you replaced the mobile home with, is that a site-built home or is it a mobile home?
it's a mobile home,
Okay. So you're seeking to put a second mobile home?
correct.
Okay.
Okay,
So it's double wide, 5 bedroom, 3 bath.
okay. So in effect, you have, what you want to have is a, well, for lack of a better thing, it's be like a duplex. 2 families would live there.
Well, on 2 half-acre lots.
Yeah, I understand that.
So she'd move to one side, and then the other one side could still produce income.
Correct.
For her.
But wait,
No, she's not living there at
She
all.
doesn't live there.
Yeah.
Not yet.
She's
But
not
the idea
planning
was
to
for
live
her to
there.
move over there to the one, and then still keep the other one as an income producing.
Correct.
But after the property is sold, or if they don't own it,
Or she no longer
under
wants
the
to live there.
R1MH zoning, one can also build a duplex on that 20,000 square foot lot.
With a special exception, not by right.
I thought that was by... Where does it say this is special exception?
So the by right uses are in 512.2A, principal uses, single-family detached on individual lots, non-commercial boat slips, public schools, community gardens, and community farms. So if you go down to special exception,
Oh, I see. It's cut off.
512.4, A, duplexes.
Gotcha. All right.
Okay, anything else you'd like to explain or tell us about?
Only if you have other questions.
You have more questions, anyone? I think you wanted this pulled too, didn't you, Pete? You have
No,
questions?
it's actually the next one.
Oh,
I
it is.
aired.
And
but-
actually I do. If it counts for anything, we took one of the worst properties in the neighborhood and made it probably one of the nicest properties in the neighborhood. So I wish the Google Street View would show you the recent view of it. It was a previous hoarder property with drugs and issues, so now it's absolutely beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, well, is there anyone here to object? That wants to speak in opposition to it? If not, then I'll just hear comments from up here. Derek?
I have no other comment really, anything to add.
Okay. Chris?
Nope.
Pete?
The concern I have is that it was brought out earlier by Ms. Mooney that the continuing violations are not being enforced by code enforcement. And therefore, would we, by granting this, create a situation where then we are contributing to that code enforcement dilemma? If you follow me, what I'm
Could you elaborate a little more?
Yeah, you indicated that this area was, in the presentation there, that the code enforcement folks are not enforcing some of the codes that go with this particular zoning for this particular,
Didn't appear to be, yeah.
or appears to be. Okay, you're right.
But you're talking about the neighborhood, not this particular.
I'm talking about the neighborhood.
Well, even in the street view on this property, can we pull up the street view? I don't know whether it's still there today, but in the street view, there's an accessory structure in the front yard.
So, if there was an exception that was made by a previous board, then I could see the fact that there would be a following, or there would be some, I can't think of the term in the law, but it's a kind of like, it's been done in the past, it was approved by an organization, and therefore we feel like we're granted.
You mean like a grandfather thing?
Or grandfather.
Yeah.
But I don't see that here, and considering the fact that she lives in Newport Richie, I have a concern that the property would be turned into basically 2 mobile homes, which would be rented out, and I'm not sure how that would benefit the area itself. That's my concern.
Well, cleaning out the old and bringing in new, I think is a benefit. The other thing is we're trying to do it the right way, unlike most of the rest of the neighborhood, so.
That was actually a comment I was gonna make too. is A lot of other folks in the neighborhood seem to be living multiple units on one property.
Which is
where it shouldn't be.
one of the reasons for my, like I said, I can see two sides. I'm very hesitant to set a precedent throughout the county, well, that if you have AR property, we're just gonna find R1MH consistent with it, and we're gonna go in and start doubling and tripling the existing densities in the neighborhood. You know, the street I live in, I'm paying a paving assessment. All of a sudden, my neighbor who's got 6 acres decides to chop it into 12 lots. When do those people pay? I'm the one paying for all the street frontage that I have. And now all of a sudden, I have all these neighbors I didn't have.
Well,
When I moved into
mean,
a
I don't-
zoning district, I had an expectation that that was the district in which I was zoned.
Problem is, the precedent's already set. It's 10 other properties that have been rezoned.
And I
R1MH.
agree, that's the negative, that's the side.
Well, I don't know,
sees
I don't know that the precedent has been set because I don't know that they were there. You know, I think they might be there in violation of the zoning.
No, there's a lot of
No, there's a lot
R1MHs
that are
in the
zoned
neighborhood.
already.
there is.
R1MH.
Right.
10
They're there, and
properties.
there's a list of zoning where they were rezoned, and those all happened 20 years ago. In fact, one of them, I think, was done in 2021, to the north, there.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts is that I don't know that these folks should be penalized for trying to do it the right way. I completely understand where you're coming from, but these folks are trying to do it the right way. Unlike apparently a bunch of neighbors, because I can see exactly what you're saying on Street View for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris, that, you know,
That'd be hard to be.
but you're right, there should be more code enforcement for the people
Yeah,
who
for
aren't
sure.
doing it the right
Yep.
way.
This is a case where I feel like my hands are tied because we're not allowed to condition a Euclidean zoning. The way I would fix this, if I were to do that, would say, fine, you adhere to the same setbacks as in AR. Maybe they could voluntarily deed restrict their property to do that?
That would be up to the applicant.
The second home would still be following the setbacks because we're gonna put it exactly right beside.
I understand,
where
and
the
I
other one
understand
is.
that's your intent, but properties get sold, and that doesn't mean that the next owner will do those things. And just because someone, your intent is to put a new mobile home, how do we know if something happens to you and the property becomes sold that somebody doesn't go find an old 1972 mobile home and put it on the property? Those are things that can happen.
They happen every day. Yeah.
So that's something you can volunteer to do with a deed restriction.
I don't know if they'd want to tear down a brand new home to put a 1972 home, and I think that's restricted anyway. I don't think you can do something.
We're not asking you to tear down a home. I appreciate that a new home was put on the property. Like I said, my concern is that we start to open up the door in every neighborhood that has AR zoning throughout the county to make them R1MH neighborhoods. I think when people move into that, and in this case, the vast majority of the homes, lots in the, there's a smattering of R1MHs, and I don't know whether they were zoned rightly, wrongly, or otherwise, but the vast majority of them are 1 acre lots that are AR. I am suggesting code enforcement should go clean them up. But I think those owners and future owners have an expectation that that's the zoning district in which they move to. I mean, when I look at this map, it's almost like, well, we go into a neighborhood that's R2 and start rezoning them all R4. We'll just cut all the lots in half and you guys can have double the,
Denise, can you clarify the difference in setbacks between AR and R1?
Absolutely, yes. So the AR district, as Mr. Moody has stated earlier, the setbacks are 50 front, 50 rear, and that's measured from the property line. Unless there's an easement, then it would be measured from the easement line. For the district that they are requesting, which is R1MH, the setbacks are 30 from the front property line, 15 from the side property line, and 30 from the rear property line.
Would their existing mobile home, the one they put there, meet the AR setbacks?
The existing mobile home, based on the measurements that I'm taking, exceed the AR setbacks. So it's more than 50 feet from the front property line.
What about from the side? What's the side setback for AR?
AR, the side setback is 25. Let's see what,
You go to 15.
just giving it a very rough measure.
And we are set at 25.
Okay.
It appears they're actually like over 40 feet from from the west side. The east side, they're way beyond, because that's where they have space to place the,
right, but when
Had
they
they-
place another mobile home there, what we don't know is they're allowed to come as close as 15. And the thing we're going to find is when we take, I have no idea where the well and the septic system is on this property, but that's going to probably limit where things can go, because there are there are 75-foot separations between wells and septic systems.
Yeah.
So what they're going to find is, because the well on the one side of the property where they've got the mobile home currently and the septic for that is going to influence where that can go on the other proposed parcel.
that's correct. And Mr. Moody, I know you know quite a bit about this. I think there might be also some reductions, right? Because it was platted prior to 1972 on this one?
No.
Okay, I thought there
They
was
would get reductions.
a reduction.
If the existing lot, if they split the lot, there's no reduction.
Okay.
Because now it's a
Because this is
newly-
part of a plat from plat book
It's
12.
not a newly created lot. It's a lot that had to exist in 1972.
Okay.
So it's city water.
City water.
Same with sewage, or?
Yeah. Well, no, sorry, it's septic.
Septic and water.
So we put in a brand new septic with the home that we put, and for the second lot, we would have to also put in a brand new septic. But
Yes.
city water, so there's no well issues.
So in theory, that should be able to be done with those larger setbacks. So you're saying that he could voluntarily create a deed restriction for the 50, 50, and 25
He would
setbacks?
they'd have to voluntarily agree to restrict the property to basically AR setbacks. If they wanted to do that, you can't compel them.
Right.
All you can do is vote it down if they don't agree to that, but you can't condition it.
Right.
So are you willing to condition the property to that effect?
We could do 2 of the 3. We could do the 50 feet from the front. We could do the 25 from the side neighbor. The 2 properties themselves are like 19 or 20, if the proposed half split.
You mean along the common property line in which you'll own?
You mean the 2 mobile homes that you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, that's not a setback.
right.
Well, it will be, 'cause
It will be when they
lots.
split it.
Yeah, 'cause it'll be a
well,
separate
correct.
lot.
Yeah.
But it's to themselves, so it's
Right,
not
it's in-
affecting
Right,
others, okay?
right. Okay, so you are willing to offer that?
That's where we're planning on setting it anyway, with the 25 and then plus 50 parallel with the other one.
All right, well, John, you
That would
have the
seem-
most concern, so if you want to make the motion.
That would seem, if you're willing to do that, then you've got my vote, and I'll move to approve.
So just to be clear, we're talking about, I'm looking up I'm just looking over the AR setbacks here.
So AR setbacks on every property line except for the common property line between the two.
So it's 50-foot front, 50-foot rear,
25-foot
25
east
On
side,
one side.
25 feet on
sides.
the
which
east side,
East
and
side?
15 feet on the west side.
Is that what you're agreeing to?
Yep. Yes.
And you're willing to do a deed restriction that says that?
Yeah. I
It
don't
would
know
be
how to do
approved,
that, but-
you'd be signing the deed restriction in conjunction with this rezoning.
Yeah, sure. That's exactly
If
what
she's
we're
the
planning
owner,
on
can we
setting.
get her to say yes?
Yes. Say yes.
Yes. I can understand about 3/4 and then I lose a little piece, so.
Okay.
Can I ask you a
Okay.
quick, what's your role in this? Are you family or are you?
I'm her son.
Your son?
I'm her son.
Okay, thank you.
He's my son and my executor and my beneficiary. I'm 81 and he's gonna take care of his mother.
You're being a good son.
In good time. Yeah, right now, it's just my hearing.
It's okay.
I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Not, all signify by saying aye.
I'm gonna
Opposed,
vote
like
no.
sign?
I have a concern about sewage, utilities. I have something to back my mind that I cannot vote yes for this, so.
Okay, so we have one nay vote. Would you like to do a roll call?
Mr. Jamie Girardi?
Aye.
Mr. Derek Montlitz?
Aye.
Mr. Peter Hansel?
No.
Mr. John Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Christopher Poole?
Aye.
Mr. Chris Williams?
Aye.
Chairman Charles Gray?
Aye.
The motion carried
Okay,
61.
And
All right.
I don't know what ability I have, but I'm asking staff to please send code enforcement out to that neighborhood and make everybody else that wants to do it out there do it legally. There's, if you street view it, the number of violations is more than I have fingers and toes to count on.
yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
They did a clean sweep a while back, and
Apparently it didn't work.
There was expectations that that was gonna do a lot, and I was a big advocate for that, because, you know, you've invested a lot in cleaning it up and making it nice, and I chose, like, you have to have 5 broken down boats and cars as a prerequisite to just move into the neighborhood, you know. They did nothing.
I'm more
They
concerned
made a couple
there.
people mow their yard and cut down some weeds.
I'm more concerned with, these are 1 acre lots and there are clearly illegal dwelling units on the lots. And it's not one lot, it's multiple lots
majority of
on
them.
that
Yep,
street if you
that's true.
look at the street view.
Well, thank you for doing it the right way.
Yes,
We
we
appreciate that.
appreciate that, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay,
To Mr. Hansel, if you, I might be able to address the utility concerns, because we went through a lot of that, putting this.
Sir, you actually don't have to. You got a recommendation of approval. You don't have to address his concerns anymore.
How do we do the deed restriction? Who do we do that with? When does it have to be done?
Denise can.
Denise can come.
So Liam will be helping you with that, and you'll hear from our office on Friday, if not on Monday. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
and that's
We'll-
David's
we'll
way
help you
of
with
telling
that.
you you don't have to be nice.
Yeah. Because I go in and go,
Well, you already won. I wait to see you say something to him.
I just want to see if we can satisfy.
We'll hold your hand through the process.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we're on to PC3.
PC3. So PC3, as my team puts up that PowerPoint, it's PDD 237697. It's a zoning amendment. Ruben A. and Maria J. Sanchez. It's for a change in zoning from an AR agricultural residential district with conditions. So the prior zoning action on this property had a deed restriction that limited the property to a total of 2 dwelling units. The property owner would like to rezone the property in order to have a potential total of 5 dwelling units on the property. So we're showing you the existing future land use, which is Res 1, 1 dwelling unit per acre. The existing zoning is AR, surrounded to the west and to the east and to the south and to the north by AC, which is what it previously was. There's a single-family home on the property and a mobile manufactured home on 5.004 acres. Access to the property is through Pine Terrace, which is privately maintained 60-foot wide ingress and egress easement, which is a dirt roadway. And we're asking you that you find it, you recommend approval recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners. The applicant is here if you have any questions on the matter. I did look through the information from the prior zoning action, and it was just what the property owner wanted at that time was to have a total of 2 dwelling units on the property. That's why that condition was placed on it. It was not based on anyone showing up to the public hearing and having an objection. It was just what the person offered. They were represented by Mr. Larkin, and that was the condition of approval that was placed
But it
on the
said-
zoning action.
The
And
staff report says, for the first zoning action,
yes,
that action was taken to bring the site into conformance because there was one mobile home and an unpermitted mobile home.
Correct, that's
One of the
accurate.
conditions was, and then it said that the property would be subdivided
correct.
because in AR zoning, we only allow individual
Individual
mobile
lots.
homes on individual lots.
Correct.
And what I'm not seeing is, there's no subdivision of this property.
I believe that there's a history behind it, and perhaps the applicant can explain it better than I can, because we did look through building permits, and we looked at how there were removals of a mobile home, and then all of a sudden it reappeared. So I don't know, we couldn't tell from the history as to how it occurred. There have been permitted mobile homes and permitted a manufactured home on the property. Requirements for removal, replacements, but I don't know how the current mobile home that's there is still there.
So
If it's actually being
My-
lived in,
the question that I have for staff is, are there currently 2 dwelling units on the property, whether they be permitted or unpermitted?
there are currently 2 dwelling units on the
And
property.
this is-
Not sure if they're
This is only
being,
one parcel that
That
has
is-
not and has never been subdivided.
that is accurate.
Okay.
Yes. The applicant may be able to explain, at some point in time, I had heard that the mobile home was not being used for residential purposes, which I know that that's another issue all within itself, but I will allow the applicant to explain that, the history on there.
All right, great. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
The applicant present. Okay, would you like to come up and make your presentation? We can only hear one at a time, so if you want to give your name and address, please, and then tell us what you want to tell us, we'll take the next one.
My name is Ruben Sanchez, and
The address is 38402 Pine Hills in Dade City.
Okay, I think I heard that. Go ahead.
Ma'am, are you helping him?
Are you a translator?
Yes, I've been helping.
Ms. Janke,
Oh, you
Ms.
are?
Janke is his representative, and we have an
Carol.
agent of record.
Yeah, I'm an agent.
Okay, well, Jackie, why don't you give us your name and address then, and what your position is?
You know, I'm not hearing you people very well.
You're the agent of record, just say that
Carol
your name,
Janke.
address,
12540 Abbey Drive.
and you're the agent of record?
Yes.
Yes.
And were you all sworn?
Yes,
okay.
we've sworn this.
I watched them too.
Okay. Well, you're really studying the swearing in.
Not that many today. Okay, so go right ahead now.
What was the question? I don't think they got.
Well, we just want to understand what it is you're going to want to do there, and, you know, the method and so forth and so on.
You want to have 5 1-acre lots and build a new home?
yeah, what I'm gonna do, is try to do the toe drilling on the property, and that's why I went, to rezone it. Because when I do the first drilling, I'm supposed to be, leave it 1 acre for drilling. But of course, I don't need anything what I'm trying to do right now. Mr. Bob Larkin was the one doing my house, and he's doing everything for me. So I don't know any of these things that we're doing right now. And that's why I let him go ahead and do the house. Because I went to the rezoning because there was already a mobile home on the property. And down that time, they say we only allowed to do 1 relief for partial. There was 5 acres parcels when I put the first one in there. And that's why I gotta do the zoning. But of course, I don't know that you gotta go through all these, the document, everything. Because like I said, I don't did it myself. Mr. Bob did everything for me. And, and everything went through. But I don't know in the future, I'm gonna face into problems like this. So what I'm trying to do right now is do my lifetime home for me and my wife, and put one of my kids living in the house I live in right now. And I mean, maybe that's all I do, because there's already 2 drillers on the property. but I wanna put it like one more drilling, and, you know, probably that's all I'm gonna do, you know, in my lifetime. Then whenever I'm pass away, and my wife pass away, then it's up to my kids, you know, they do whatever, but I wanna make it sure it's down the right way, so that way, in the future, they don't gotta facing any problem like this.
Did you say you only have one child that you want to bring on the property, or two?
He's got 3 children,
Three?
3 adult children, and he's hoping to leave a
I mean-
legacy.
So will all three be moving on to the property?
Well, not at this time.
In the future, he wants to,
In the future.
he's trying to get it done ahead of time so they won't have to go through it.
They want to build a new retirement home on one of the 1 acres. And their son will probably be moving in their existing home.
Okay, that's what I'm
And then
trying.
they want to, they got 2 more adult children. They're all adults now.
So that's why they want the extra lots.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
So they
gotcha.
can
Okay.
leave a legacy.
I mean, they might never move in, they might, but you know, I wanna do it that way, if he decide to come from Tampa to live here in the future, they already have a place to build a house, or put a mobile home or whatever, you know?
And that brings the property into compliance for the 2 that are on there already. So in other words, there's,
Well, actually, the prior zoning already made them, they got a prior zoning that allowed the second dwelling unit
okay,
already.
okay.
So, but that was, it had a condition on it that they only do 2. They're trying to basically rezone it so they can now do 5.
Makes sense.
But I don't know that anybody answered the question of who's living in the second unit currently? Who's living in the mobile home currently?
Some of my family
Some of his
living
family.
right now. And I know that the mobile home is there, there's not having a lot of future. But I mean, that's one of the reasons too, you know, I'm trying to do this.
But-
Because maybe, you know, I mean, maybe one of my kids wanna put a house in
So
there.
why do you have 2 dwelling units on the property, but they're not on individual lots? The previous zoning said you were going to subdivide that into 2 individual lots.
Because when I do the house, I had to do the zoning. That was the only way I was allowed to do the house. Because, you know, like I said, down that time, there was only allowed for 1 drilling for the 5 acres parcels. Then, you know, I mean, when I went and see the builder, they told me that I had to do the zoning for me to be able to put another drilling on the property. And I told Mr. Barlock, and I said, I want this house in 1 acre. And I think it was already changing, you know, for AR to something else, you know. But I mean, he did everything. I don't really know, and I don't even know that I gotta go through this in the future. But now I'm trying to do things the right way. So that way, when I'm not here, my kids don't got to face any problems, you know. They can decide, build a house in there, or they can decide to sell the property and divide whatever.
Have you had a pre-application meeting with the staff regarding the subdividing the property?
Yes.
Yes.
And did staff tell you you could have 5 lots?
They did not say that he can have 5 lots. They just basically explained what he would have to do in order to subdivide the property. They didn't tell him the number of lots that he can have.
Okay.
It's 5.04, so it's 1 acre lot.
Well, I understand that, but as soon as he has 3 lots, that constitutes what's called a common plan of development, and he's subject to the SWIFMUD regulations. He needs to build stormwater management, and I'm sure he's going to have a discussion with the fire marshal, who's going to want some sort of stabilized or paved access road into these properties. And there's going to be improvements that are required for a subdivision, just like we require of any other developer. You don't get to just go chop up the property into 5 lots and not put any of the required infrastructure. You need to be able to put the infrastructure in, and that's what I'm suggesting to you, is that after we have roadways and we have stormwater management ponds, and I don't know if any buffers will be applicable, but that may be.
Well, they back up to the Everglades Ranch. The road there is on the easement road that's on their property, is on their property.
I understand that. What I'm suggesting to you is you may not get 5 lots after you comply with all of the other requirements of the land development code.
When I was submitting this for the first time, I think it was the fire department and some county personality, they just asked me, that all I gotta make sure that the easement road is available.
Well, for instance, the state fire code says a new home
Yes.
has to be within 600 feet of a fire hydrant. Is
Yeah.
there a fire hydrant in the neighborhood within 600 feet?
They told me what distance I gotta have if I decide to do the 5 lots. Because I heard from you, if I understand right, they gotta have enough space in case an emergency happen. They have access to go in there. If it's a house on fire or anything like that. So that's already discussed. And it's already, to my knowledge, that there's enough space for whatever any heavy equipment or vehicle gotta go in for an emergency.
Am I correct that this is just removing that condition from the previous zoning, and this is not a rezoning in the 5 lots right now? This is just removing that condition?
Basically, yes, because it already is zoned AR, but it had a condition that capped them at 2 units. So yes, it would have, but by removing the condition, you're effectively allowing 5 lots. You're not approving a subdivision. Up to 5 lots. You're not approving a subdivision. And I do want to correct one thing that Mr. Moody said. If you look at the conditions of the prior approval, it actually didn't require the property to be subdivided. There's a finding of fact that it says they intend to subdivide, but it doesn't.
Well, if you have 2 dwelling units on it, the code requires that it be subdivided because it's individual houses or mobile homes on individual lots. In other words, you can't, just because you have 2 acres doesn't mean you can slap down 2
I understand.
dwelling units on it. It has to be subdivided, and I will be honest with you, one of my concerns here is the current applicant was the applicant under that zoning, and it appears that we've not complied with that zoning.
Well, one of the other conditions was that the unpermitted mobile home be removed.
Well, and
I don't know if it ever was.
now today there's a site-built house and there's a mobile home, and it's not subdivided, and I'm scratching my head trying to figure out how we even ever got a permit for that, but I guess neither here nor there.
It was done as a
happened.
replacement according to the building department, except that they have noticed that the
just
mobile
because
home
it's
was, they have documentation from an inspector that the mobile home was removed, but then the mobile home was brought in later on, so I don't know the timeline there. So I did check with the building department on it.
So when it was brought back, was it permitted?
I don't have evidence of that.
You can ask the applicant.
Will you, in the course of getting the approval to put your home on the property, one of the requirements was that you get rid of the mobile home.
Okay, well, as long as, let me have a mobile home in there, do I have my house built, then I can move if it's possible.
Well, is your house built?
It's gonna build in a 2nd acre for the north to south, so.
Do you have an engineer?
Then, sir?
Do you have an engineer? I'm trying to help you. I'm not against your case, but I think that you're operating under very misguided advice. We have a 1,500-page land development code in this county, and when you go to subdivide this, you're going to be required to comply with these things. And I don't think that you've gotten the proper professional advice yet on how to properly subdivide this property. And I mean, has anybody told you you need to get a permit from the Water Management District?
Well, I've been doing whatever, I've been told to do it. Because when I do the first thing, I told it what I want to do.
Yeah, but it's not going to be pleasant for you when they come out to you and start issuing fines because you've built a subdivision without a stormwater management permit. It's not going to be pleasant when you've gone and placed orders for new mobile homes or put a deposit with a contractor and the fire marshal says there's no firefighting water supply out here.
Well, that's one
Just
of the-
just because you have 5 acres and the zoning code would allow you to theoretically divide it up into 5 1-acre lots, that doesn't mean that that's what will happen after you meet all the requirements of the land development code. And so what I don't want you to do, I don't want to see you lose a bunch of money doing this, only to find out that you can't do what you want to do.
Well, that's what I need to know. That's what I'm here to hear. Because, you know, if there's any issues for me to get that done, I'm not gonna do it, because I don't wanna do anything that's against the law.
How is
And
trash picked up on your property today?
How much, what?
How is the garbage picked up from your
I got it,
property?
I got it, one of those, big containers.
And where is that?
It's, in, Lindmark. You know, it's probably about less than a quarter mile from the house. Because,
Is it on your property?
no.
It's
No,
not on your property. Because one of the letters that was in the file here was from the neighbor asking concerns about how the garbage would be picked up. And I have a concern, it looks like it's a dirt driveway, and I know the garbage truck isn't gonna drive down your dirt driveway to pick up garbage cans in front of all these unless they got a roadway. If you build a roadway, you're gonna build a stormwater pond.
The garbage truck don't go on the easement road, because the easement road is just for me and the people living behind me. As the only two people.
Does the
that-
zoning code allow us to take and put dumpsters on other people's properties just because there's an ingress egress easement?
You see, the trash cans is right where Lindmark.
I understand.
And from there, this is as far as the public service come. The only other service come to my house is like, you know, the UPS and, but I mean, any other vehicles, you know, like garbage trucks or anything, because that road right there has been maintained by myself. When I bought the property, you know, I was trying, you know, to find out how can I work or do whatever to fix the road, because it was so bad that nobody take care of it. So when I buy the property, I was trying to, went to the county and find out that if there's any way, you know, that I can do something, or who owned the road, and he said, nobody owned the road. And I say, okay, well, I'm gonna try to fix it and put a gate on it. And he said, you cannot do that because you got somebody living behind you. And I said, okay, that's understandable. So then he said, what you can do is go to the neighbors. And I think it was 5 people, they gotta have approved for the county to do something with the road. You know, and out of 5, only 2 agreed. So then I went through. So then I've been trying to maintain the road, but the road is only used for me and the people living on the mobile home and the person living behind me. That's the only people that use the road, the easement. And of course, when I applied, he told me, do you know you gotta have an easement road? And I said, the easement road is already there. Because they was there when I buy the property. You know, and then they say the road don't belong to anybody. I said, okay, so I'll try to do the best I can, you know, for whoever going in there, you know, they can be able to go through. But as far as like in the road, supposedly be the county road, there's the Lindmark, you know, and right there where the neighbors on the east side, you know, that's the road. They go to the museum and go around to Jordan, and that's where they got the garbage can. That's where the public, you know, service comes. They don't go any farther from there because, like I said, I guess the rest of it is private property or something. And in the north side is everywhere, so nobody going there. So, you know, there's only me and my neighbor living behind me, and in the east side, they use the road.
So can I ask you a follow-up to Mr. Moody's question?
Yes.
So who is advising you? Are you advising him on how to get this through the approval process for the 5 lots?
He had a survey done.
Okay, what is your profession, if I can ask? Well, how did you become the agent for him?
She usually comes down here to
Because
object to zoning.
Because they had a problem going through the process, and they came to me for help.
But what is your background?
What is my background? Well, my husband and I had a heavy construction company here.
Okay, have you ever dealt with the development of housing or subdivided lots before?
I did.
You did?
You've taken that through design and permitting,
Well,
not just construction of them.
no, I had 130 acres down in Zephyr Hills and
Okay.
10 up on 52.
And did you subdivide the 130 acres for lots?
Yeah, it's all different things.
So did you explain to the gentleman how?
That's a long time ago, and I don't know what the codes are now. I know that we had acres of land, and we had AR, and we put one, in the one I did, my understanding was, it's AR, and you could have one unit on there, whether it was a mobile home or.
Okay, let me get my question out though. So are you helping him just through the zoning process, or do you intend to help him through the subdivision and permitting process too?
Am I gonna help them through the subdivision? I didn't think they were just gonna build a new home on there, a retirement home.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you, is it doesn't
Yeah.
work the way you think.
I guess just a question,
Well,
just
at
this,
the point in time when I did it, years ago, that's what happened on our.
I don't know that even years ago you were allowed to subdivide into 5 lots without going through subdivision review.
Pardon?
I'm not aware of any time in the county you were able to carve up a parcel into 5 lots and not go through subdivision
Well,
review.
we went through a subdivision. Yeah.
Okay, so that's my question. Are you going to help him get through subdivision review?
Well, I don't know, what it's gonna cost now or what we're,
Tens of thousands of dollars, if not 100.
to put.
I can tell you that if you came to my company and you asked me to do this, we'd probably be somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 to prepare all of the plans and plats and things that are required to subdivide
Well,
that property.
I know that they're planning to.
And that doesn't include the improvements that you're going to have. That's just what you'd pay me.
So can you please tell me, because every time I'll come and try to find out and let the people know what I wanna do, they tell me, yes, can be done.
Well, yes, it can be done.
Okay, but see, the thing they don't tell me, okay, but you wanna start doing this, what it's gonna cost you? The first time they sure tell me that, they say,
But that's
okay.
not the county's responsibility. That's your responsibility to
Right.
hire the appropriate professionals
Right.
that have the required licenses to do these things.
One thing you could do is just have a consultation with the land use attorney and just ask them what you want to do and
And
see
I'd
what they say.
strongly suggest you go see, well, they're at the land use part of this now. They need to go see an engineer because they're gonna do some engineering and they're gonna build some infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm not sure they need a land use
Well,
attorney.
what
This is a
kind
fairly
of
simple rezoning.
infrastructure are they gonna build way out there? There's no sewer and water. The roads.
That's part of the decision I'm about to make. There is no sewer and water, you're correct.
But there's all these other 5-acre parcels and nobody else has sewer and water either.
I understand that.
I mean.
They're not in here
on the
asking
road.
they're not in here asking to chop them up into 5 more lots.
Well, excuse me, some of the people that live in the east side, they have 4 units on the property and 5 units. And that's one of the reasons why they got so difficult for me. And what I'm trying to do, I don't try to do something just because. I'm trying to do something just because, you know, like I said, I work hard all my life to get what I have. And I want to make it sure whatever I do is according to what the requirements for the county.
And we appreciate that.
And that's why I'm here, because I don't want to give any people's time and I don't want to give anybody's trouble. If it's not possible, fine, that's okay. I leave things the way they are. But I just want to do something because what I want to do is not want to make a development and make money. I just want to make it sure my kids have something.
I'm asking you the questions, not because I'm against what you want to do. It's because I don't think you've been given good advice on what you can do or what the requirements are to do it. I think if we go in and we approve your zoning today, you're going to start trying to get permits for houses or set up permits for mobile homes, only to get told no, and you're going to be frustrated at every turn of the process when Mr. Tippin back there says, well, we need a road, we need landscape buffers, and the fire marshal wants to know what you're doing about water supply to put out fires. Those are things I don't think you're prepared to answer.
Well, because I don't know, and that's why I'm here to find out. You know, because like I said, when I apply to do what I'm doing, I don't apply just because, you know, I mean, but when I see people doing what I want to do, and they allowed to do it, I mean, I'm paying my property taxes like them, so I don't know
Sure you do.
why. I mean, why, I mean, and it's okay, there's no problem at all. I mean, if it's gonna be that difficult, good to know. I don't need it like to go through all these. If it's not possible, that's fine. I mean, I'm fine where I am right now. I just wanna do that for my kids, you know. But I mean, if it's not possible, I mean, I'm not gonna be, you know, wasting anybody's time to try to do something that's not
Can
possible.
I clarify something here? So if I understand correctly, on this guy's property currently, there's one house and there's one mobile home, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this 5-acre lot should be split in two for that one house and that one mobile home, okay? It does not matter if you want to add one more mobile home to make 3 lots or make 5. It's the same amount of work. So all the things that Mr. Moody has been saying, as far as all these hoops you've got to jump through and all these improvements you got to make and all these applications you have to do, would be the same for 3 lots or 5 lots, just so you're aware of that. So in my opinion, I don't know, I think you need to get these answers before you decide whether you even want to move forward with getting this condition removed for your rezoning.
And then the other question that I have is, why isn't the lot is not currently in compliance?
Right.
I feel like if you're coming here asking for an additional entitlement, you need to come here with clean hands. And right now, I see a mobile home, I see 2 dwelling units on 1 lot when the code requires that it be on 2 lots.
Yeah, AR5 does not give you permission to have 5 units on one 5-acre lot.
So what you tell me is not possible for me to do what I want to do.
Well, I'm not telling you it's
Yeah,
not possible.
It depends on how much you want to spend.
Well, see, that's why I want to try to go step by step, because, you know, when I went into the beginning of this deal, they told me, okay, this is what it's gonna cost you, okay?
Can I make a suggestion? I don't want to deny it, okay? I don't want to make a motion to deny this rezoning. But I might make a motion to continue it, and I would do that as doing you a favor to give you time to go out and consult with an engineer about what it is you need to do to subdivide the property. And you need to have a pre-application meeting with the county staff, and you need to have that engineer attend that pre-application meeting with you and ask all of the appropriate questions. Because there's a lot of moving parts when you want to subdivide a piece of land.
Okay, well, like I said, you know, I mean, I told you what I was doing to now, I was doing the right thing.
We're not suggesting that you're doing anything wrong. You are, you're asking for the zoning, that's the first step. What we recognize is that I think you're under the impression that if you walk out of here and we don't get to grant the zoning, we only get to make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, but if the commissioners were to grant you this zoning, that you can just go start putting 3 or 4 more mobile homes on the property, and I think you're going to find out that that's not the case.
You did suggest that there was a violation because there's 2 different dwelling units.
Yes, there is,
without being
and
so-
I got a little bit of heartburn over there.
But
yeah.
the reason I share Mr. Moody's concern is normally I would say, this is not your problem, because subdivision review is staff's problem, but I am a little concerned in this case because there's apparently there may be an illegal mobile home. So I understand Mr. Moody's concern that we approve this, or board approves it, you may get 4 illegal mobile homes there, and it never goes through subdivision review. So I'm not sure that it would get caught, except through code enforcement. If he continues to put more mobile homes out there under the theory that the current mobile home is out there. Sir, did you understand that? I think that's part of the heartburn here, is that some of this could happen in the future. You could hire an engineer and go through subdivision review, but you haven't really explained how you got the current mobile home, the second mobile home that's on this lot, how you got it on there. Did you get to pull a permit for it? How, is it,
Yes, please come forward if you have something to clarify. You need to state your name and address.
The
Maybe-
mobile home is in there.
We need your name, we need your name and address. Excuse me, we need your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I know who's talking.
Maria Sanchez,
Okay, and your address?
38402 Pine Terrace.
Okay.
In Dade City. The mobile home is in the property. It was there when we purchased the property.
But we were told that you took that mobile home off.
No, the previous owner,
When
he
did you
did
buy
that.
it?
Just wait a minute, one second,
Huh?
Derek.
I was just wanting to know when she.
So when the owner, he purchased the mobile home is right there, and he moves the other one, and he just left it in the land. And when we tried to do the house, they tell us that we had to remove the mobile home, so we did.
Okay,
But like I said.
but now
that-
there's another mobile home there.
And yeah, that's the mobile home the previous owner, it was living.
but I thought you said you removed it.
Yeah, because it was the mobile home, and it was the old mobile home, I guess the gentleman purchased, and then he just never did anything with it, and he just left it in the property. And we did, we moved the mobile home from
So there
there.
was two mobile homes.
But now there's somebody living there.
Yeah, that's the mobile home, like I said, it was there when we purchased the property.
But my point is, the agreement was you were supposed to get rid of that mobile home before you built the home.
Yes, but it's like I said, it was two mobile homes, and the second mobile home was that it was, I guess, it was our old mobile home, and then the person that we purchased the property, I guess he bought the other mobile home, but he never removed the other one.
Well, I think the point we're all trying to make is there's supposed to be one dwelling unit on that property,
Yes.
and now there's at least two.
And there could be two if it were subdivided into two lots, but
Right,
that was
but-
never done.
Right, but that was never done. And so if you're gonna come back and ask, if we do have a continuance, then you're gonna come back and ask, for a division of the property in the proper way, unless you get rid of that other mobile home, you're in violation of your first agreement, because you never removed the mobile home.
Well, like I said,
You were only allowed one dwelling unit on the property,
yes, sir.
because you didn't
Yes.
divide the property.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, can I ask Steph a question, because I just want to clarify. Denise, the prior approval has a condition saying they will remove the unpermitted mobile home.
Correct.
Is the unpermitted mobile home the one that is currently there?
So from my understanding, when I checked with the building department and spoke to the building department as they checked their records, is the house that was built on there was built as was done as a replacement. In other words, the mobile home had to be removed in order for the house to be on there. The inspector verified that the mobile home was removed, and then now all of a sudden, when I look at the parcel cards, it says there's a mobile home. So that's why I was asking the building department, how did that mobile home get on there? And they're like, they don't know, based on their history of looking at the permit. So I don't know the answer to that
So
question. I know it's a
we have
long
no-
answer, but I don't
So we have no
know.
records that the county ever permitted the mobile home that's there currently.
That's correct.
I assume we did permit the house.
We also did permit one mobile home, but that mobile home that we permitted was supposed to be removed when the house was built.
Okay, so just so I get all the facts straight, at some point there was two mobile homes?
One.
So there was one mobile home,
Mobile
then they're
home.
asked to build then they asked to build a house with,
Okay, so.
they were
While they were
given
building.
exemption on impact fees.
Okay, so they removed a mobile home and built a
Yes,
house. I assume we
correct.
permitted the house.
Correct.
The findings of fact, David, in the first case says presently the subject site contains a mobile home and an unpermitted mobile
Yeah,
home.
so there was two.
So
Yes.
that makes it sound like there's two. So,
And so the house replaced the permitted one, which left the unpermitted
well,
one.
that's the root of my question, which is, if there was two mobile homes at one point, which one got removed, the unpermitted one or the permitted one?
According to the building department, the one that got removed was the permitted one. The unpermitted one, I think they called it like a shed, or they didn't call it a mobile home.
But you were just saying somebody's living in that place, right?
And the mobile home, yes.
Yeah, there's somebody's living in it.
So,
Because,
so Denise, I guess the bottom line is condition number 2, the prior approval said, the existing unpermitted mobile home shall be removed, or permit shall be obtained as the proposed new dwelling unit. Did that ever happen?
From what the building department has explained to me, it never happened.
And it was never permitted either, because there are two options, to remove it or
So,
permit.
ma'am, since you're the agent, can you explain why that never happened?
I'm not, I just was signed as their agent at the end here, but I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about the mobile home situation.
Well, you applied for the rezoning, right? You helped them apply for the rezoning?
Right.
And you applied not knowing whether they had complied with that prior condition?
I do not know that. I know that it sounded like they had the right to have two things on there. I guess my question would be,
Okay. Ultimately, yes, it's possible to get permission to do 2, but my question is, did they ever get a permit for this?
I didn't even know them. And they've had this property for maybe 18, 20 years. I don't know anything about the mobile home situation.
Well, if you're acting as their agent, isn't it incumbent upon you to know these things?
What was it?
I say, if you're acting as their agent, isn't it incumbent upon you to know what's going on?
Well, I probably should have, yeah. I didn't think it was that complicated.
Well,
The reason why I was helping them is because they needed help. Because when they went to apply, they had a lot of issues. And they thought maybe because they were Hispanic, they did not understand. And they came to me for help.
well, we have multilingual people here at the county that can help them, and that's not an issue.
Ms. Hernandez?
One is sitting right there, you know?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what your role is as authorized agent. Are you acting as their translator, or are you just a friend? I don't know what your role is.
Well, more as a translator and friend and an advocate, but it was only.
Are you being paid to be their agent?
Nothing. I'm not being paid anything. I'm just trying to help them.
we just used to work for her, and she just, good person to try to help us. And I mean, we don't know that we need to hire an attorney to go through all these, because, you know, every time I try to find out what I need to do to apply for what I want to do it, they tell me it can be done. You just got to go through these.
Sir.
And everything.
Part of your frustration is that you aren't willing to get competent advice. You're willing to just take the advice of a neighbor that may not know the answer. And then now you come in here, sort of half-baked, asking us to approve something, and you don't even know what you're doing or what you're supposed to be doing. And, it's frustrating to this whole audience here, you know?
More questions.
We're wasting a lot of time on something because you haven't gotten the proper advice. And obviously, she's not equipped to give you the advice, even though she's kind enough to try to help.
Denise, what is Mr. Larkin's profession? Who advised him previously?
Mr. Larkin is in the construction industry, or was. I'm not sure if he's still around, because this was many, many years ago.
Did Mr. Larkin tell you that you needed to get permits for your mobile home?
No, he's the one get the permits to build the house, because he's the one building the house.
But did he tell you that one of your conditions was that you had to get a permit for the mobile home?
No. And like I said, I don't know, and that's why I'm going through all this right now. Because, when I went to see him to build the house, they told me I gotta go through the rezoning process. And it's pretty much the same thing we're going through this right now. It's something like it. It's not the same, everything, but I mean, it's something that we already know, that we shut it down that time, and asking for like papers.
Can I ask the staff a
Mr.
question?
Larkin, because only thing, I told her I don't wanna remove the mobile home that was there when we purchased the property, because the mobile home already have its own well and its own city tank and things like that. And I say, as any possible way, so we can just leave the mobile home there and you go ahead and build the second relay. And he said, yeah, but you gotta go through zoning process. And I say, okay, but I needed
Well,
to do
you
that.
did go through the zoning process, but there was a condition saying you had to get a permit for the mobile home.
Well, there's like I said, there's something I don't know, and I apologize, because like I said, I went for what Mr. Larkin told me. And I went, they got my house bill, I paid
So
them.
when Mr. Larkin got a permit for your current home, he never got a permit for the mobile home?
The mobile home was already there.
I know, but there was a condition of your rezoning saying you had to get a permit for that mobile home.
Well, like
Or
I
remove
said,
it.
he told me that, he said, you're gonna go to the 2 meetings, I think this is one and the following one is the second one. He said, you want me to do for you? And I said, well, if you can do for us, much better, because you know exactly what you gotta do it. And he did, and everything went, fine, because I don't have any problems, I don't have any
Okay,
things.
sir, let me ask you one last question. Why haven't you hired like a professional to help you with this?
Well, I don't know what's the professional. Like I said, I don't know.
Well, obviously she's not, okay? I mean, she's admitted she's not. Okay.
I don't think I say she's a professional. She just try to help me the best way she can, because like she already said, I don't want to speak out enough.
A licensed engineer would be a professional. You can look them up on internet, phone
Right.
book. There's a licensed engineer would be a professional.
Yes, sir.
We don't
The
have
biggest
phone books.
problems we have, because when I started,
Internet.
I mean, pretty much everything gotta go online. And that's one thing I don't know how to do it, and she don't know how to do it. And that's why we have
So,
issues.
ma'am, could you help him get on the internet and find a licensed engineer?
Did I?
Could you?
Oh, yeah, well, we can look for a licensed engineer, yeah,
Okay.
So,
Okay.
question for staff.
if they want to go through.
If we vote to recommend approval or denial, when would this gentleman have his hearing before the BCC? What's the,
BCC is October 10th, 2023.
okay, so a month from now. And if we were to vote for a continuance and make some recommendation that the next time we're here in Dade City, then when would he have his day before the BCC?
Then the next time you're in Dade City is October 5th, so that would put his board meeting in Dade City to November 14th.
Okay. And would there be, Brad, maybe you can answer this question better. Would there be adequate time between now and November for him to come in and file whatever paperwork he needs to legally split the lot and make the
Lot compliance.
the current property in compliance?
So this is kind of a complicated question.
You're gonna give me a complicated answer?
My understanding is this is a parent parcel,
This is a parent parcel.
so to do the first split, they don't have to go through our subdivision process.
Okay,
It's
so then there's
property
enough
appraisal.
time.
There's
So
enough
that
time.
narrows that piece down. If they want a third lot, then they would need to go through a process. It would likely be the MRS, minor rural subdivision
Yes.
process. But we likely could not have it done that fast.
Correct, but
So they could
it's a
submit
parent
for it
parcel, so
theoretically.
if we were to continue this until the next meeting in Dade City, there would be adequate time to correct the existing violation and come back here with no violation, is what I'm asking.
That's correct.
But obviously, he needs to be careful when he makes that first split.
That's why I'm
So
suggesting he
mean,
get an
in my-
engineer.
In my opinion, I think before anything happens, he needs to meet with a professional engineer, try to schedule a pre-app meeting to go through what's gonna be required of the county, to even decide whether he wants to go forward with this.
So could we continue to a date uncertain with him? coming back
I think we need to, I mean,
With the applicant coming back when he's ready?
I have
Okay.
a question. Do we have any opposition to this?
Well, that's my next question.
Okay, please. Great minds think alike.
So, yeah, that's right. Well, David would remind me anyway, so.
We never did hear what your concerns were. You said you wanted the item pulled.
I did.
Oh,
Yeah, so you can hear John, right?
Do you have different concerns than what Mr. Moody stated?
I have several concerns, but I'd like to know if there's any opposition, first of all.
Okay. So we've heard the presentation. We know what the possible solution is. Is there anybody here in opposition to this application? I don't see anyone.
And for the record, I have no one signed up on WebEx.
All right, then in that case,
I have several concerns. There were 3 letters. One of them was addressed, which was the trash can. And I guess the other one was a concern that was written, that I read, was the fact that the roads, he claims that the roads are, I don't know how he explained it, but he's got a road that he's going to maintain. But there was one person that had a concern about the road and the maintenance of it, and the condition of the road and the traffic. And my main concern is you have, in the documentation I read, there was going to be, property was going to be divided into mobile homes for family. Well, what happens when the family moves out or the family does not move in? Now, do we have 5 apartments that we're going to convert to apartments for income? There's another question I have too.
To be clear, unless they're doing what's called a limited family subdivision, which rarely occurs, if they do any other type of subdivision, minor rural subdivision or just a regular subdivision, those lots can be sold to anybody.
That's true.
They're not limited to family members.
But in the documentation, he wants, and he has said here publicly, that I want to bring my family here, wherever they're at, and then I want to have them live on my property. True?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but what happens if they move, they decide not to come here, I don't know where they're coming from, then will we take this property and subdivide it into apartments? And that's my concern.
Well, to be clear, I don't think they could get apartments.
Okay,
It's 5 units. But
okay, to rental uses, the mobile homes become rental units then.
that is a possibility that it can be
Yes.
5 rental units.
Yeah, and then the issue becomes sanitation, electricity, water. Never heard anything on that, nor did I read too much in the documentation, which I thought I printed off today, but I did not. So those were not answered, and I think they need to be addressed.
And I think he gets those answers,
for the continuance.
and I think he gets those answers from the engineer when he does the pre-app meeting. I mean, I think we've talked about this. I mean, I don't, again, it's appreciated that you're trying to do the right thing, and we're not trying to make you feel like you're not doing the right thing. I think it's just, we want to make sure you know what you're getting into before we approve something, and it might not be something that you're even looking to do, or you might think you want to do it now, but when you find out all the answers, you might not want to do it in the future, so.
And I do have one message for the agent. So I realize that the applicant has limitations, language limitations, expertise limitations. In my opinion, what you should have done is directed them to a licensed professional, not try to handle it yourself. I'm just being honest with you. I mean, because they clearly need more advice than you can give them. So I think what you probably should have done is help them get on the internet and find a licensed professional. It sounds like maybe you can still do that, right?
I'm not hearing you.
Nobody said anything about anybody was have like representing us, because I figured what I was trying to do is just try to find who I need to see or who I need to talk to let them know what I want to do. And I'm pretty sure, if I come to the court and try to ask somebody there what I need to do, they probably tell me, well, you don't need it.
So sir, yeah, I'm trying to help you. I'm just saying that if you can't get on the internet yourself to find the licensed professional, maybe she can help you do that.
She will.
Okay.
Denise, do you have something? Excuse me a minute. We've got Denise.
I just wanted to say, and I'm very much begging you, that you do not continue this to a date uncertain. With all due respect, the Sanchez's are wonderful human beings, are great. We're very happy to work with them, very happy to work with Ms. Janke. But all the communications have to be done by mail. It's very difficult having this property posted. There's actually even a hold harmless here based on they didn't hold the neighborhood meeting properly.
Yeah, can we talk about that?
We
too? What
really
happened?
need to continue it. If you have to continue it a month out, we'll continue it again. But the problem is that continuing it to a date uncertain is going to force them to have to renotice and repost the property. And that has been problematic for us.
Okay.
So I'm just stating that,
So-
I'm just stating the facts.
So can I ask Mr. Girardi or Mr. Moody a question? Realistically, if they find an engineer sometime in the next week or two, how long before they could, maybe Brad knows, before they get a pre-app scheduled to get answers to some of these questions?
Well, that's a Brad question.
Red loves the questions. Theoretically, it can be pretty quick. I mean, we have a quick pre-app process that you can do immediately after you have your engineer, as long as it takes them to kind of put together a concept plan or to schedule a meeting. It's running around 3 weeks right now if you're flexible.
And my comment to that, David, is they'll get the pre-app faster than they're going to find the engineer to take the case right now. I mean, if you came to me, I'm booked for the next 6 months.
Okay. Denise, did you want to say something?
I want to add to that only because of factual matter that I asked how quickly we can get a pre-app, not on this particular case, but I asked this exact same question on Tuesday, and right now they're scheduling pre-apps into the 3rd week of October. Again, it was just 2 days ago that I asked that question.
So Denise, how long would you recommend we continue this to give them enough time to find an engineer? It may not be Mr. Moody, it sounds like. Any engineer, any licensed engineer, and get a pre-app before they come back here? 2 months?
At minimum, 2 months.
Okay.
And then I have one other last question. And I'm sorry to bring up the last case, but I have one concern is we give them 5 1-acre lots at AR, then does the next person come in and decide they want 10 R1MH? So my question is there any compatibility problem with ER versus AR here? In other words, would the current land use, would the comp plan allow for us to rezone this as ER rather than AR?
Is the concern with AR the mobile homes is the concern? The reason I'm asking that is because you know you have AR1, that's only for site-built homes.
Okay, well, that might be an option for me, yeah. I'm just asking if there's any, well, I realize it may not work for the applicant, but I'm asking, is there any compatibility issues? Is there any reason that we could not make that recommendation from a comprehensive planning perspective? I'm not suggesting that I'm going to, but.
So is AR1 considered a more stringent rezoning than AR, I guess because it's site-built, or is it?
It's the same lot size, the same minimum lot width, the same setbacks, the same uses, but for mobile homes. Now, I will say that, and let me give it a very rough measure, there are parcels that while they're not zoned AR1, they're zoned AR5, which is the compatible 5-acre lots that can only have single-family homes, because they could have done an AR5MH, which is for mobile homes. Probably around 500 feet from here. Let's see.
Well, I'm asking the
650.
question, Denise, because if it's advertised as AR, I'm trying to figure out whether planning commission could, without making them renotice, recommend AR1 as opposed to AR, if it got to that point.
So could it be that the planning commission deny, it's still coming in for an AR, the planning commission deny AR but recommend AR1? Could that be the?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm asking. Generally, you can if it's a sort of a more stringent, or if you advertise something that was sort of less stringent and you proved something more stringent, generally that's okay from a notice standpoint. That's why I asked you the question.
What would be the difference, primary difference between AR1 and ER?
Site-built home.
So
No, they're both site-built homes.
Right, well, ER, the lot width in ER is wider than AR.
Okay.
And also, there are, ER, for example, I know this is very minimal, but you can't have roosters. Whereas in AR and AR1, you could have roosters. You can have chickens and roosters.
You like roosters?
I got one. I got two.
But there are no ER lots anywhere near here, I mean.
I won't have any this weekend, though.
So if the planning commissioner board wanted restricted to site-built homes, you'd recommend AR1?
AR1.
Okay.
You could have modular homes in AR1, you can have a modular in ER as well, because we consider modular and site-built
Correct, I
similar.
understand.
Just not manufactured or
Modular
mobile.
is a type of construction.
Correct.
Yes.
So it's best if this gets continued for 2 months, is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, and then we can always extend it further if we need to, but it just won't be to a date uncertain.
To avoid the renotice. What did happen with the neighborhood meeting that didn't happen? What was the
Sure.
story behind that?
Yes, I can absolutely tell you that. So what happened at the neighborhood meeting is there are two things, the notice. So first off, this is in a Res 1 future land use classification, which requires a 1,000-foot notification. They did not conduct a 1,000-foot notification. I believe they did 500 feet. And then secondly, they didn't post a sign for the neighborhood notice. So they did the mailing to 500 feet, but they didn't post a sign. And they didn't do the mailing to 1,000 feet. So they insisted on being heard.
This is why they signed a hold harmless.
That's why they
indemnification,
signed a hold
which,
harmless.
You know,
But that's
now,
not fair to the public. They did not get their notice.
Well, 3 people did.
Right, but all the people, the other, there are people who were required to be notified that were not notified. Is that what we're saying?
That is accurate. It would have pulled, it would have pulled a few more people in,
So-
correct?
was the notice done by Mr. Sanchez or the agent?
I can allow them to answer that question because I just get the actual physical notice because everything with this situation has been mailed to me. Everything is
So
mailed
then
or
I have-
sent in our office.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. To me, it doesn't matter who sent the notice or didn't send the notice. You're asking for not a date uncertain so that it's not re-noticed. I now got some heartburn that it wasn't noticed and weren't noticed.
Just a moment. Let me be very clear. The neighborhood notice was not noticed accurately. The notice for being here today, that was done properly because we actually did the sign for them. We gave them every single bit of information. We did the last time too, but we didn't do their sign. But we gave them all the information what to do, but they just, the instructions were not followed.
It was the neighborhood meeting notice that was.
That is accurate. The neighborhood meeting notice was not properly done. The notice for today's hearing and the board hearing in October, that was properly done.
I think we're down to the point where we pretty much know where we want to go with it, so let's make the
Yeah,
motion.
let's make it.
We could beat this dead horse to the,
I'll make a motion to continue this item until November 3rd. Is it
November 2nd, Planning Commission at 1:30 in Dade City.
Yes.
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Okay, continue then.
And please go find an engineer before you come back.
Yeah, I hope you can find one within that time frame. Even.
Pardon me?
I hope we'll be able to find one that can do it.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sure you will.
And address the mobile home.
You need to get that
issue as well.
fixed.
The mobile home issues, so that needs to either be, it needs to be divided.
Right,
So
you
that
need to
there's-
properly subdivide
Subdivide
the
between
existing
multiple.
property.
Right.
The existing property right now is not in compliance, and it needs to be fixed before you come back.
You get a permit?
So each unit has to sit on its own individual lot. Currently, 2 units are sitting on 5 acres. So each unit has to sit on a minimum of 1 acre and a lot that's at least 125 feet wide. That's not the case what there is right now. There's 2 units sitting on there on 5 acres.
House and a mobile home.
Correct. That it has to be divided. So 1 unit sits on a minimum of 1 acre, the other unit sits on 4 acres, however you want to divide
You
that.
need
but
to have the property surveyed, the surveyor needs to create legal lots, you need to go record legal descriptions with the property appraiser and have parcel ID numbers assigned.
This is all part of why you need an engineer.
In addition, it appears you never got, there's no permit for the mobile home either. So you have a lot issue and a permitting issue of the mobile home. Ma'am, I understand that you don't understand. All I'm asking that you do is find them somebody that does.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Mr. Chair, the next item is PC4, and Amy Toll is on the line to present that item for
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna take a 5-minute break.
Okay, thank you.
Chris beat you to it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Gargle, you mean gurgle?
Whatever.
I hope it wasn't.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, for this next item, PC4, do you want a full presentation on the matter?
No.
Or do you just want questions answered?
Just questions answered.
Okay,
I
we
think.
do have Amy Toll on the line to answer any questions. If you want a full presentation, Mr. Zodian is here to do that.
Okay.
So my only question, I think Mr. Mooney may have others, but my only question was, why does the proposed use say light industrial flex?
And I was informed that that was a typo. It should say whatever the zoning category, excuse me, would permit, subject to the restrictions, the voluntary restrictions, the development.
So the proposed use is commercial uses?
Yes, sir.
C2 uses, basically?
Yes, sir.
Subject to the restrictions that are outlined in the memo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we make a motion to approve that, it would be, would you change any agenda memo to put the correct uses there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
That was my only question, Mr. Mooney, because of it.
I don't have an objection to this case. I don't even actually have a question. I just have a comment because I'm seeing this come through on every commercial rezoning. There appears to be a blacklist of C2 uses. Standalone car washes, pre-owned vehicle sales or leasing, cabinet, carpentry, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, welding, machine, sheet metal, or other similar trade shops, warehousing and general storage, including mini warehouse, self-storage, boat RV storage, vehicle or equipment garage, auto repair. I use every one of these things. People use every one of these things. And if we start blacklisting them everywhere, where are they to go? Every one of these things that comes through in Connected City has this same restriction in it. And how many square miles is Connected City? That means people are the whole idea of this is you're going to live, work, and walk all over. And now you're actually forcing people to drive miles and miles and miles to get these services that they can't get because we've blacklisted them out of their neighborhood. Because there's some perception that they might be overbuilt. And I'll acknowledge to you, I'm tired of seeing car washes on every vacant lot too. But that doesn't mean we're here planning for things 20 years in the future. It doesn't mean it's going to be that way 20 years from now.
I agree with you. The market should dictate that as well, as to how many car washes there should be.
The number of car washes isn't a land use problem, it's a lending problem, financing
It
problem.
can be a land use problem as well. I think contemplate providing more stringent landscaping for those. They may begin to fade away.
Oh.
Well, if that's the case, then the zoning code should be changed, in my opinion.
Okay.
But, I tend to agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily an issue, but.
I'm not against the case. I have no intention of voting no against this case. It's just a comment. I see this coming through on all of the rezonings, and I think we need to be very careful. Whether we're going to drive gas-powered cars or we're going to drive electric cars, there's still going to be car dealerships that we need to go buy these things from. And if we prohibit all car dealerships, where are we to get the cars?
So, Mr. Mooney, I think,
Carvana.
yeah, to be fair.
Oh, that's a vending machine.
Yeah, to be fair, I think you may be painting too broad of a brush. I'm not sure this particular case warrants this restriction, but in some of the ones that you're seeing, they're coming in as with the sort of compact, walkable type commercial or mudroom type projects where staff has determined these uses are not compact, walkable retail uses. Now, that being said, I'm not sure this particular one is in a mudroom, compact, walkable community. And so, but I don't know staff's reasoning for the restriction here, but my point is, I don't think you can just say that all commercial's the same. Because there is some commercial where it's coming in a certain form to maybe to get certain incentives, maybe to, meet a certain development style.
I understand your point.
Okay.
No need to.
All right, is there anybody in the audience that's here to speak on this one? I see no one.
And for the record, there's no one signed up on WebEx.
All right. So then, do I have a motion?
What number is this?
I'll make a motion to approve with the revision David noted.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Okay, motion carries.
Following item is P5, PDD 24CU02. It's for a conditional use for, under the name of Pasco Land and Cattle Company LLC, Skyway Towers, Verizon Wireless for a 155-foot above ground level monopole wireless facility in an AR1 agricultural residential district.
Okay.
Sorry, trying to do everything very fast, I apologize. As stated, the conditional use is for 155-foot above ground level monopole wireless communication facility in AR1. The future land use is Res 1. The applicant is proposing 155-foot above ground level, which is a 150-foot wireless communication facility with a 5-foot lightning rod. Monopole design suitable for the co-location of 3 additional carriers, proposed to be located along the southwestern area of the property within a 6,400 square foot fence compound area in an overall 10,000 square foot leased area. The parcel is approximately 160 acres. It's located in central Pasco County on the north side of Green Willow Run, approximately 2,000 feet east of Quail Hollow Boulevard. This is the subject property showing the zoning, which is AR1 to the north, south, east, west. Well, there's some AR to the west, one parcel. This is the future land use, which is Res 1 with conservation to the north. This is the aerial. The access to the site is going to be from Green Willow Run, and to the wireless communication facility compound will be through a proposed 30-foot wide access and utility easement, which is located off of Green Willow Run. This is your context map, which basically shows the properties surrounding it, and to the north, the parcel is part of the Cypress Creek, Hillsborough County Line Ecological Planning Unit. This is a portion of the site plan showing the compound area and the lease cabinets and the landscaping around it. And comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions. There were 2 letters of objection that were sent to you, one yesterday and the other a couple of days ago from property owners in the area, and those were also one of them did make the record, the other one didn't because it was yesterday, but those were also sent to the clerk's office. And I'm here with any questions. I believe you do have some folks here in opposition.
Okay. Anybody on WebEx?
Denise, was there any?
I heard no one on WebEx. I was just, I have to
Okay.
turn on and off this microphone.
All right. Is the applicant present?
Hi, good afternoon. James Johnston with Schutz & Bowen, 300 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, on behalf of the applicant. We appreciate Denise's and staff's hard work on it. They have a comprehensive staff report, which we're in agreement with, including the conditions of approval. We would ask for a recommendation of approval. But we obviously, I think there are some people here with some questions or comments, and we'd like the chance to come back and address those.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so for those, who is here to speak on this one? All right, so why don't you just come up one at a time, give us your name and address, and then let us know what you're concerned about. If you want, the ones that are going to speak, if you want to come up on the front row, so you'll be ready to go.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Cynthia Elliott. I live at 8810 Quail Run Drive. I believe you've received my letter. I have a number of concerns about the cell phone tower. I've already outlined, I'm nervous, I'm sorry.
It's
I've
okay.
already outlined them in my letter to you. Have you had a chance to see the letter?
Is that one of the ones we got?
Okay.
It's in our packet, yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, we moved out there 30 years ago with the intent of being in a rural environment. And now to have the potential of having this big tower behind us, I mean, it just doesn't have any sort of compatibility with our rural landscape. I've raised my children, our neighbors all moved out there for a rural expectation, and it is completely insulting to that. We went to the meeting in the middle of August with regards to what was going to be offered. And one of the maps that they showed us showed the actual improvement of the cell phone ability was not even really going to affect us at all, but was going to be improving the cell phone capability of that vacant land, which is that parcel, and then the parcel adjacent to it, which is a total of 300 acres that are owned by the same family in St. Louis. My concern is having that area completely developed, although this is for the cell phone tower, but if the capabilities of that cell phone tower are only going to improve the cell phone capabilities of now vacant acreage, it makes me wonder what are the future plans. I'm also a licensed beekeeper. I know for a fact that these sort of things really impact beekeeping, and it's impossible to have bees as it is right now with the cell phone towers that are close. My bees have all left. Another individual who won't be speaking but is here, he's also a beekeeper, and he's had to move his bees up to Dade City just because of the impact of the current cell phone towers that are in the area. Additionally, there's a great deal of Indian artifacts in that area. I have contacted the Seminole Indian tribe, and they're checking into it. They're checking into burial grounds as well. There is some history to it. You can read about it in some of the older articles in the Tampa Tribune, I believe. Trying to think of some of the other points that I've made. Oh, the watershed. How could I forget the watershed? We back up onto Swift Mud, onto the Cypress Creek well fields. The potential of that having an effect on the watershed in that area, 300 acres, is that water would be impacted coming across Quail Hollow, under the culverts there, under the culverts at Apple Blossom, and then on down to the Hillsborough River and the drinking water for Hillsborough County. There's just so many things to consider. I did do a better job in the letter. I don't mind talking with anybody else. You know, public speaking is not my forte. One of the other things, when we were at the meeting, we asked if there was going to be a blinking light, that we just didn't want the blinking light there in the horizon. And they said there's no light going to be on the tower. We mentioned to them that there is an airport right across State Road 54 there. And, what about the planes in the area? I mean, that needs to be addressed. Why does it have to be right at the let me get this right, the southwest corner of that property? That impacts all of the residents that have been there. And yes, we are acreage people. I mean, it's not like it's a close development, but this is just going to impact us in such a negative manner. I mean, it could be put further back. I don't think it even is necessary. We have cell phone coverage. We're happy there. There's people here that are going to be coming up and talking. There's a number of people that are very concerned in our area.
Can the staff put up a map and you show us where you live in relation to this project?
Are we keeping track of time too, by the way, Denise?
I didn't poke any button. Was I supposed to?
No.
I don't think we are, but we'll start doing it.
Okay.
Before you walk away, I just have one question, just because you stoked my curiosity. What impact do these towers have on bees?
The electromagnetic pulsing, the internal mechanism inside the bee for their homing instinct to be able to go out. They can range like 5 miles away from a hive, but they need that internal radar, if you will, to get back home again. What happens with these cell phone towers is that it impacts them it overrides their own internal instinct to be able to take the pollen, the honey back to the hive. They literally get lost and they die. And I have, as the way the towers are right now in our area, which are not going to be nearly as close, I'm having problems keeping my hives. The gentleman that lives nearby us has given up and has taken his bees up to Dade City. I don't want to get distracted, but 33% of our food in the world comes from naturally pollinated bees. And the bees and the monarch butterflies are dying off.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what it was. That's interesting to learn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't get me going on it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
show us where you live.
Yeah.
Okay, and the tower site is?
Yeah, the red,
Southwest
it's,
corner.
there we go. It's like a,
They gotta
kind of a
keep going
horseshoe.
south. Southwestern corner. Yeah, right there.
Okay. And then just one follow-up question. You were concerned with the watershed, and generally, there's not a lot of impervious surface associated with a cell phone tower, so...
No, there's not, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, so the question is why, what's
Okay.
the concern, where does the concern
The
stem from?
segue was, when we were shown the map at the meeting, which we were offered the second week in August, the cell phone improvement as a result of that tower was going to be for those two parcels of land, which are 300 acres, which are vacant. Begs one to wonder, why do we need to have improved cell phone coverage for vacant land? Would you like me to connect the dots?
Well, you realize
sure.
that
Go
we have
ahead.
vacant
I'm
land.
afraid of
that's-
development. I'm afraid of excessive development.
Well, you live in a development. I mean, there's people all over this county that live in development, so, I mean, it's sort of hypocritical for you to complain about
I've been there
somebody
for 30
developing.
years and we own 15 acres.
Well,
I don't
I've
call
lived
that
here longer than
development.
that, and we've dealt with all that kind of stuff, so.
I'm sorry, I can't-
I have a hard time accepting that as a criticism. I understand your bee problem, and I sympathize with that, because I know bees are important.
So, Mr. Chair,
yeah.
I'm not even sure her statement's factually accurate. I think you should let the applicant address it, because I'm
Yeah.
looking at the coverage maps for this tower, and it looks like it is providing greater coverage to existing development. So I'm not sure I accept the factual premise of her
Okay.
statement, so you should
All
let
right.
her.
We'll save that for when
Well,
the
yes, when he
applicant
gets
comes
back
back.
up,
and he
yeah.
can
We were
show us.
provided with a map. Maybe, I don't know if that's the one you're looking at or not.
Well, let's let the applicant address what
All right.
Okay,
what
and
they're
then
covering.
David and Mr. Gray and Jamie, I had the same question about the bees, and when I read her letter, I was fascinated about the bees, and I would tell you that I have a concern. That being said, we had a cell phone tower case the last time we were here, and the applicant's attorney educated us all about our wireless communication facilities ordinance, and that basically these are land use decisions. Our decision isn't to decide how good or how bad coverage is. Our ordinance specifically does not allow us to say no because of concerns over health effects. I'm not saying
Which
that's right.
amazes me.
I'm not saying it's right, but we're bound to do what the county ordinance says.
Well,
We
it's not
can't-
just, in that case, it's not just the county ordinance. The Telecommunications Act also prohibits you from considering environmental effects or health effects of radio
Okay,
frequency
so-
emissions.
but-
So as long as they're complying with the FCC regulations, you cannot consider environmental effects or health effects from a tower.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying I don't share those same
No,
concerns.
but was that
but-
1994 that act went through? It was during Clinton's administration.
No, the first part of what you said, I'm not sure. I think you can consider a need to provide service. So the area that they're serving is part of our, I mean, that's why we go through.
No, I think it's the
RF
it's like the quality of service. We're not here to judge whether that's acceptable quality of service or an unacceptable quality of, we're here to make a land use decision about
Yes, you're
a tower.
primarily looking at, is it appropriate for the area, looking at visual impact? But we do
The
have an RF
compatibility.
engineer that looks at the need for, in other words, you can't just put up a spec tower that's not serving in a need. So
Right, we went
they have
through
to
that
demonstrate a
before.
need for the tower.
And she's saying, and I don't know because I'm not expert enough, and I'm hoping that the applicant in rebuttal will show us that the coverage maps are serving an area that doesn't need a tower. I look at these maps and all I see is green. It looks like a Rorschach test or something to me. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think we should let the applicant and/or our consultant address the coverage issue.
Okay.
But
So
they-
let's have the next
Well,
person that's concerned.
One thing I want to
Up and
point out
speak.
is also if somebody could turn the wetlands map on, the wetlands layer on, as far as future development goes. That's not gonna happen next to you. It's all Category 1 wetlands.
Okay.
Not buildable.
I guess the Seminole tribe is still working on
Sure.
their evaluation too.
Yeah, and that, a lot of those things you brought up will be brought, and will be looked at as part of the site plan process after this, so.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Yeah, I do also want to note that there's a condition that specifically states that, condition number 8.
Okay, who'd be next?
If there's any prehistoric material or anything like that, there's a condition on here that addresses that.
Right.
Is that for Pasco County?
You want to come ahead, come forward,
Condition?
please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
State your name and address.
Hello, my name is Meryl Fermani, and I am at 8810 Quail Run Drive. So, same parcel of land. She already spoke about a lot of the things that I was going to talk about. I wanted to address Mr. Gray's, the board's reference that we live in a development. A lot of us moved out there because we were farther apart from people, and it was not originally a development. They were all individual parcels. If you extend the map up, we're like a shepherd's crook, and then it is completely wetlands. It's completely Cypress Creek Preserve. So I understand what you're saying, but we all moved out there with a choice. We didn't choose to live in Temple Terrace. We didn't choose to live in Brandon. I moved back after school because of that, because I lived in Temple Terrace for USF, where I got my bachelor's. But I did not want to live there anymore, so close to all of that. So I moved back out. There's plenty of property there, you know, and I liked having that distance from technology and from people. One concern about the compatibility that she didn't address was our resale value. Not so much for us concerned, but those of us that we spoke with that couldn't make it today because they have 9-to-5s. They're concerned about the resale value of where the property owner is choosing to place the tower, because it's not only visible, it's across the street. So everyone's concerned about if they choose to move, if, you know, more things get built there, if it's not compatible with their lifestyle anymore, whatever, be closer to family. Is this, for lack of a better word, eyesore, going to affect people choosing their home over someone else's? Did you want to say something?
Go ahead.
Another thing that she was mentioning with the coverage maps, and I don't know if the coverage map that they were looking at was referencing just how it would be improved, but they showed 2 pictures. One was bracketing the vacant land with our current coverage, and I actually have a picture of printouts. I went and I looked up current Verizon towers. I didn't just look up cell phone towers, I looked up tenants of towers, Verizon's. There are 4 in the area. Most of us have Verizon Verizon service. Oh, am I done? Okay.
You got a minute. You got a minute.
We all have it because it works. There's not a need for better service. There's 4 towers that are working in the area behind the new school. There's one on Sandy Lane that has T-Mobile as the primary priority tower tenant. So we don't need it. We already have it. We know it works. So we don't understand the placement of it. We're obviously worried about future development if only that vacant land is what's benefiting most from it, if you didn't see those 2 pictures. I have emailed the mediator, I believe, between Verizon, Skyway Towers, and the company, the property owners, I keep calling them company, to ask for those 2 pictures because I wanted to put it in the information today, but I don't have it. Also, that land by by the property owners did not have been saying that it's unbuildable previously and have been getting this was told to different residents there. It was not put in anything. Oh, I'm done. Okay.
Okay, go ahead and wrap it up. You have one. Finish up.
They're getting tax breaks and zoning flexibility, and now they're changing it to benefit them, and that concerns me that they might be getting breaks for some reason that they're also not in the area. This does not directly affect them. It only behooves them because they gain financial betterment, I guess. Why does it have to be so close to residents? That apparently at the neighborhood meeting. Why does it have to be so close across the street and adjacent to another property? They have so much property. I know there's wetlands. Why can't they move it a little bit in the middle so it's not so much of an eyesore?
So that was going to be the question. I didn't want to stop you because you didn't.
Yeah, I want to stop you there because your time is up.
Yeah, and
but I want you to be able to answer the questions.
Who's liable if this breaks? I know they're going to talk about engineering.
Well, okay, but so the question that I have is, you're concerned about how this could affect your view shed or the property values, but you acknowledge that you're a Verizon customer, and so am I.
I'm not right now, I actually
Okay,
changed.
well, there's lots of people that are, and they use
absolutely.
it for cell phone and internet, and, you know, it's a technology everyone's got one. Nobody today doesn't have one of these things. So my question is, where do you think it should go?
So I don't quite know what the red means, but there's a lot of yellow, and I believe Mr. Poole said that that was wetlands, correct?
Correct.
Yellow is
Okay.
Category 1
Category
wetlands,
one
and the
wetlands.
red are
Okay, so
Category 3
why could it
wetlands.
not go on the northeast corner of 3, where it does not affect, I can't even remember.
So kind of where
right
that
now.
open area is that what you're
Yeah,
suggesting?
where it's in the middle, and it's not affecting the horizon line, and it's not affecting the people across the street from Green Willow. Why does it have to be right on the road? And also, yes, we all have Verizon, just to answer you, and they all work off, like the towers, they work off of population and density in that area. So if we still have good service, and there's nothing that can go up north of us because that is all protected wetlands, then who is it serving if we already have good service? That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, please figure out who's liable, though, if it ever comes down in a hurricane.
It's going to be you,
The property owner?
just you.
Just me? Okay, that's fair. I talked a lot, Mr. Gray, you're fair.
Okay. Who would be next? Take your time. I know you went to Beef O'Brady's.
I was here at 1. I thought this was at, I thought this was 1:30. I didn't know it was at 1:30. My name is Kelly LaMusca. I live at 26218 Green Willow Run. I live at the basic corner of the end of Green Willow and Quail Hollow. This event was first brought to my attention just last week. Was not aware of any of the meetings, was not aware that there was a cell tower going up. So I can't say that the information going out was useful.
What is your objection? Let's see if we can get to that before your time runs out.
My concern is that when, and that was what you were saying, Mr. Moody, earlier, that you had categorized the character of a neighborhood, and every one of us lives in a neighborhood that has a character to it. And I don't think any one of us in this room would want a 150-foot tower going up behind them in any of our properties. So the concern is whether there's a genuine interest in our community, because our community has been pre-existent for 4 decades. If this tower was already existent on the property and we moved into the community, there'd be no argument because it was already there. It's pre-existing. It is now going into a community 40 years old, and for the convenience of a landowner who does not live in the state to use a property that he can't develop in order to have a profit somewhere in his holding at the expense of his neighbors, because his neighbors are the ones that will be taking the hit on the home values. And I hope you understand that, because if they can't sell their homes and they have to take a loss and they can't provide tax dollars to their community. And it's the same thing with my end. I may not be seeing the tower. I don't know what the ill effect of the tower is in the long run, because everything is always post-mortem after years of it exposing a community, whether it's good or bad. So health reasons, yes, we can have that. Site reasons, cost of property value, the effect with the bees and birds, because 5G does have an effect with both of those. And whether or not we are going to be compensated in any way for our own losses. Because we can't sell a house sitting in front of a tower that's 150 foot high. No one's going to buy it. Nobody here would buy it. So I'm only asking in light of our community and the character of our community that you consider the pre-existing residents and how it will impact us. And I really appreciate your consideration of those that are living in the community and paying the tax dollars in the community in light of a behemoth company like Verizon that's paying the money to a landowner that doesn't live there anymore. So I appreciate your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Who would be next?
Quick comment.
I was gonna make comments, too.
Go ahead.
The reason that we're having a public hearing is to take into consideration the residents. That's why, otherwise they'd just give the staff the right to approve it in the ordinance. That's why this is a conditional use application and we're having a hearing, is so that we can hear your concerns.
On your document here, it says, this is recommendations, approval with conditions?
Well, yes, they've recommended approval, but they don't get to just approve it. They have to come before us, and then they have to go before they have to go before the county commission too.
Okay,
So,
it's
but that's the
not already said and
purpose.
done. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not automatic. That's why we hold a.
No, it's
there's
just a
public hearing
recommendation
held.
to us.
To us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Connie.
think if you saw the earlier hearings, you'll see that the planning commission doesn't always agree with staff's recommendation.
Right.
Yeah, we already turned down one, didn't we? To go with another one.
But
If this was sitting in your neighborhood.
the comment I was gonna make too is, your neighborhood's been around for 40 years, it's true, but cell phones didn't really exist 40 years ago. So it's, unfortunately, it's a technology that's come into our lives that has become ubiquitous. And so we have to figure out ways to, because now we're getting to the point where there's very few people with landlines. Cell phones are now serving as their only way of contacting 911 and emergency services. So we have to make sure, it's a balancing act, right? So we have to make sure that everybody has access to that communication, as well as being careful about sight lines and property
Right.
values and so forth. So
It's one thing for it to be in the back part of an area that nobody lives in, but obviously.
well, and that's
you
going to be
want-
one of my questions to the applicant is to maybe is there a possibility for locating a different spot on that property?
Right, I think it's the ingress and egress of it is why they're choosing its location.
That might be true. So, but it's a concern well heard, right? But you know, we have to find a solution somewhere in between that still gets cell phone service to the people that need it. The area is still growing, and there is possibility that some of this area may be developed more in the future. So we have to make sure we weigh that as well as what your concerns are for property values and so
I
forth.
hope the question is arisen as why they can't use pre-existing towers that already cover the area.
Well, that's part of it. That's part of their application process. They've demonstrated need for that additional tower that's not able to be served by existing towers that are in the area. That's part of the ordinance that requires that.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. And who was coming up next?
How you doing?
Good.
My name is Yahya Ahmed. I live in a 26942 Green Willow Run, Wesley Chapman.
Right.
It's right, when I look to my window, I will see this tower. So I was amazed by this. I was watching you from the first case. You actually here, you're not 8 people, you actually holding the law together. You're making the law. In first case, you change the law instead, implementing the old laws.
Mm-hmm.
But, I assume that you all living in a nice area, so you don't want to open your door and see the tower. That's number one. Why they putting right on the corner, it's instead make a 1,000 feet road, it's costly. Let's put it right 100 feet here, it's easy to access, put some cage, make it even worse. So I just want to just describe you. You already know this. You don't want to live probably John Moody, Mr. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your. You don't want to live, you open your door and you see a big tower. Of course, your property, what I pay really, pricey 20 years ago, is not gonna worth that much. You have to admit, you wouldn't buy my house at all. So
Well, I gotta know,
instead,
first, I don't know where your house is. Why don't you show us where that
I
is?
just told you the address. I don't see it without
Well,
glasses. 26942. I'm right across to this. And the reason why I purchased the land, it's wetland. I said no neighbors, peace. Now, if they develop this land, I wish luck to all my neighborhood because this water has to go somewhere. That means we're gonna all get a flood insurance immediately, all of these. Because there is no way that this water disappears. When it's rainy season, over there it's up to your knees. There is not even deer can pass easily. And then the question number one, the lovely ladies tell you before, why they putting right there? If it's in an interest, we already know that we got service, beautiful service. Why we need this second stage? I want to just that you address it. We need this. We don't. Believe me. Is there anybody behind over there that is in need behind this wetland? I'm not sure, but I don't think so. Nobody complain about it. And then why they putting right here? Let's hide it somewhere if you have to put, which is hard to fight with you guys, I have to admit. I mean, you actually today you're gonna determine what is the law, change the law or switch the law. Don't get me wrong, I'm always straightforward, speaking the truth. I can see John Moody is laughing, you don't want to hear this, but I mean, you're going to hear it anyway. I don't think that it's going to outcome change anything, but I mean, I was watching this whole process from beginning.
I was just trying to figure out how you change
That's
the law.
okay,
but-
yes. No. If you go back in the first case, you will see that you change a law. So.
Well, yeah, sir, to be accurate, nobody changed the law.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would let them change the law here.
But you approved divided of the land.
They approved a rezoning subject to certain limitations is what they did.
Yeah.
And we actually,
Be more restrictive.
over there.
we actually made it more restrictive than the staff recommended approval for, so.
And then the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
case, they continued an item, so they didn't do
Don't
anything.
get offended, please. I'm just saying you, imagine that you make up in the morning and drinking coffee, you open up, wow. What are you gonna see? Tower right next to the street.
You said you're 26942?
Yes,
Green
sir.
Willow?
Yes.
Is that right?
I'm right there. You don't have, you can go and check it out.
Is that your house right there that's showing?
So that's 20, I just did a measurement, rough measurement, it's about 2,500 feet away from where the tower would be
In the southwest corner, yeah.
in the southwest corner.
You're a pretty long cup of coffee to see that away.
So, sir, are you saying you wouldn't be opposed that the young lady suggested possibly up in that open area on the property might be a better location for it? Are you not opposed to that?
If they want service, which we already had, if they want to approve the service, which, like a gentleman said, we are not, there was no computer back then, which is, I agree, technology goes up, we have to go, there is no, but I mean, it's a common sense, why put it right next to the road? Why not hide it somewhere, put in the middle, if they are trying to achieve better service, better quality, or even for the future, who knows what they are planning to do with this. That is no question, they all mentioned this. So,
If your home is 2,500 feet from the tower, you must have quite a setback on your piece of property. That's a long way to see that tower from your house.
No, it's not problem me, some other
Half a
thing.
mile.
No, you said it was you.
Okay,
You said you
it's
opened the
me,
window
yes.
and there it is,
With his coffee.
with his coffee. That's right.
Can you please put, if I got time, I mean, where is my property, where is the tower?
See the blue square, a half a mile from where they're gonna put the tower.
Okay, it's not half a mile.
It is,
2,500
it's
feet
about
to almost
2,500
half a
feet.
mile.
180 feet, and it's 2,500 feet away. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Not from his place.
Sir, you did make it sound like it was right next to your lot when you got up here.
Yeah, we were anticipating you right across the street.
We don't talk
But
from the audience.
let's say if it's not even, I mean, right there.
You
It's
can do a
right
measurement
there.
on
I'm
that.
gonna see it, there is no way 150 feet that I cannot see.
Okay, so I'll ask the same question that I asked of
Yes.
the nice young lady. Where do you think it should go?
Right.
It's gotta go somewhere. It's gonna go somewhere,
I agree.
all right? And we all agree that we all use these things. We need them to call the nice emergency responders. And so where should we put it? Because no matter where we put it, somebody's gonna see it. Or if there's a place that maybe somebody can't see it, maybe we'll consider that.
The
So-
question is, if gentlemen wanna address us, why they putting the tower? We got nice service, nobody complains.
Sir,
So what is-
sir,
what is the-
we'll let the applicant address it, but it's not just a matter of whether you have existing service. The issue is also the quality of the service and the population that it serves. So you may be able to make a phone call today, but who's to say that you'll be able to make that phone call once everybody in this neighborhood is all hooking to the internet at the same time?
The other thing
We
too,
don't know
sir.
this answer.
The other thing too, sir, is
But I'm saying is you can't just assume because you have existing service today that there's no need for a tower.
so as technology improves, as you go from 4G to 5G, one of the things that demands is a reduced distance from the tower to the cell phone users. So in order to go up in technology, you have to have more densely located cell phone towers too. So that's the other, as technology improves, that can demand that additional towers need to be added as well in order to increase the bandwidth and speeds that people are looking for.
Everything what you
But
just said is
sir, I want to
true.
be clear with
So-
you. We do have an expert that looks at this very issue. It doesn't even get to the planning commission unless it goes to our expert and he determines that there's a need for this tower to provide a service. So we have an expert in RF engineering who looks at their coverage maps and determines whether they have demonstrated a need for the tower and for additional service. Our expert has concluded they have demonstrated the need for the tower and the service. Now, the issue about what it looks like and where it's located on the property, we can talk about. But I think unless you're an RF engineer who has information different than what our expert has, you're gonna have a hard time proving they don't need the tower and they don't need the service. Are you an RF engineer?
No, sir, we don't have to pinpoint on me. I mean, you know
Okay.
that I'm not engineer.
Okay.
I mean, everything what you said.
But you're
both
questioning
sides
the
are
need for the
true.
service. That's why you're acting like they don't need the tower and they don't need the service.
Is there no
I'm telling you, if you read the staff report that came with this item,
Yeah.
we have an independent expert that evaluates the need for the service and the need for the tower.
I believe in this, sir. Now, the question is
Okay.
like my predecessors, these ladies tell, I mean, the place where they gonna put it.
And I think you've heard multiple planning commission members say that they're gonna ask the applicant that question about why it needs to be located, where they're putting it.
Okay, so we've gone way beyond the time, so.
Okay, I'm sorry. I took too much time.
It's okay, I'll send you a
Thank you.
penalty, yep.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir, name and
Good
address.
afternoon. My name is Paul Fermani. My address is 27251 Wesley Chapel Boulevard, Suite 102 in Wesley Chapel. I have been sworn. I moved out of Carrollwood 31 years ago to get away from urban blight, cell phone towers, things of that nature. I moved to rustic Pasco County with an expectation that I would appreciate, and my children, my daughter, my two daughters would appreciate the rustic nature of Pasco County. Cow pastures, horse pastures. Now, I understand the need for development, but there has to be responsible development. How many car washes do we need? How many lagoons do we need in Pasco County? How many cell phone towers do we need in Pasco County? How many visual blights do we want in our community? Because I think at some point you have to think about the citizens of Pasco County who have an expectation of the character of their neighborhood and have lived here for 31 years. And now we have an out-of-state company that wants to come and put a 150-foot tower in my backyard.
And where's your backyard?
The same that my wife pointed out, my daughter pointed out, we're lots 10, 11, and 12, 8810
I got it. Thank you.
Quail Run Drive. When I moved out, the first thing that happened was my house got sinkholes because of overpumping with swift mud and Tampa Bay water. The next thing that happened was flooding to my property because of the lawsuit by Saddlewood against Swift Mud for the flooding to their property. So what they do, they turn the flooding in my direction. So now I have flooded, dead cypress trees in the back of my property. Already a blight. I couldn't even see green willow from the back of my house because of the cypress. Now I can see. So yes, if you're going to have development, let's have responsible development. Let's go stick it over Saddlewood's way. Because I've already had enough suffering as a result of their lawsuit. Go stick it over there, or go put it in the middle of the wetland property and worry about the drainage there. And I don't want to get into the not in my backyard argument, but I think at some point we've got to understand that Pasco County has expectations for its citizens. And sticking the 150-foot tower, which is a visual blight, yet another visual blight, along with everything else I've mentioned, I just ask that you be responsible in the placement of this tower, because how many people have actually called the planning commission or your expert or your county commissioners and said, you know, the cell phone service in Quail Hollow is terrible. We should have another tower. How many people have actually called up to complain? I've never complained. My wife's never complained. My neighbors have never complained, because we have great cell phone towers. There's one right 8/10 of a mile on Sandy Lane. They built it like a Christmas tree, a fir tree. Don't stick up a pole. If you're going to put a communications tower, make it look like something decent. But 8/10 of a mile, why put another one 8/10 of a mile in an area that has no residences other than the ones that are already living there? And yes, I suspect that the next plan is going to be another multi-family use going into that 260 acres that have been hunting property for doctors in St. Louis for the last 20, 30 years.
Is Saddlewood the adjacent neighborhood? Is that neighborhood there? I'm not familiar with the area. Saddlewood and not Saddlebrook. Right, Saddlewood.
Yeah, it's the next to the north of us.
To the north of it.
But of course, my street is surrounded by wetlands. I mean, we bought there for a reason. We're on a dead-end road in the middle of a swamp.
Is there any way you could pinpoint better where or can somebody pinpoint better where your lot is? Because I'm...
The red one?
Yeah.
Okay, so where is Saddlewood in relation to that?
It's to the north. It's on the other side of the well field.
Across the well field.
Or northeast, I guess.
So given where your lot is, I guess it seems like they have located it fairly far from your lot, if you're to the north of the tower. I guess my question is, if they move this tower farther north, does that impact you even more?
No, it wouldn't, because there's
But it seems like your lot is north of the tower, unless I'm misunderstanding where your lot is.
Your lot backs up on the property.
Yeah, I just say put it in the middle of that 200
Okay.
acres. Put it in the middle.
Okay.
Why put it up against Green Willow?
They can't locate it in wetlands. So.
Okay, but where its current location is, or planned location, it seems like it's on the southern end of the property. Am I right or wrong?
That would appear to be correct.
It's in the southwestern end of the property, yes.
So it seems like if it moved farther north, it would be moving closer to your lot. Am I missing something?
Further off the road, but closer to...
I just want to...
It seems like it would be more visible to you if it moved north.
I'm as concerned for my neighbors as I am for myself. I feel sorry for the people on Green Willow that have to look at this thing. Because the cell phone tower that's on Sandy Lane, when I'm driving into my property, I can see it half a mile away. Because it's above every single living tree in the neighborhood. So I really don't know unless you actually...
Is that your property that's in color there?
That's my property, yes. 10,
Okay,
11,
well,
12.
the tower is proposed way south of that. No way you can see
That's why
that.
I'm trying to understand why you're advocating moving it north. I just want to understand that better. Why are you
I want to have better understanding as to how 150-foot tower is going to impact the community. What are we going to be able to see? And I'm not just here for myself. I'm also here for those poor folks on Green Willow that might have to look at this out of their backyard.
Oh, okay, so you're more concerned about the folks that live south of the proposed location than your
I'm
own
more
lot.
concerned about out-of-control development in Pasco County, quite frankly. but that's another day.
Okay, let me ask you the same question Mr. Moody asked the prior speaker. Where, if the tower, assuming the tower has to go someplace in this area, where would you prefer to go?
I don't know, I'm not an expert, sir. I'd say give it to your experts, have them find a place
I think
that is
that's-
not visible to the neighbors in this neighborhood.
The county did give it to an independent expert. And one of the difficult decisions we're going to make is that no matter where we put it, it's going to be visible to someone. You know, I'm working with David on another case, a public, semi-public use, and we had a discussion. Nobody wants a wastewater treatment plant in their backyard. Nobody wants a landfill in their backyard, but yet we all flush our toilets and we all generate trash. It has to go somewhere. So what we have to do is try to find the place where it has the least impact but provides the greatest benefit. But
Well, that's,
outlawing it or prohibiting it isn't going to happen. This is something the public needs.
well, that's what I question as a private citizen, is what is the benefit if nobody's complaining about their cell phone? And what is
So
the impact?
I think the applicant's going to address that.
I welcome his response.
And he is, and I would say this, nobody's going to build a cell phone tower if they don't think they're going to sell cell phone service from the tower. It's a very big infrastructure investment, and they're not just gonna build one for the sake of building one. They're building one because they got customers that need service. I don't know anything about that particular company's need for service, and I'm sure they're going to address it when they come back, but they're not just building it for no reason.
Or maybe the property owners want additional income now that they're not hunting.
But sir, it wouldn't matter whether they want additional income if they have to have a willing tenant. And the tenant is the tower company and the cell phone company. They're not gonna pay that kind of money to locate it on their property unless they get some benefit out of it.
Right.
The benefit they get is selling service to the residents in the area.
And it has to be within a certain area, so if
And
they've identified a hole in coverage, it has to be pretty close to that hole in coverage.
For many, many, many years, I'm sure you have internet access at your house?
I'm sorry?
Do you have internet access at
Yes.
your house?
Yes.
Okay, so for the first time I had internet access, I had to use a modem and dial up over the phone lines, and it took forever, right?
And you love that screeching sound, correct?
Yeah, right, same thing, just like the fax machine sound. Then I got cable TV internet, right? The speed got faster. Now I got fiber, high-speed fiber. And I used to have all these wires through my house, wiring up all the computers to everything, and now everything's wireless. But that's one of the things that's happening now in this industry. So right now, probably most of us are hostage to the Spectrum and Frontier. And as these 5G towers start to go up, we're no longer hostage to that piece of fiber coming into our house or that cable or that phone line. We're not hostage, we're not tethered to the wire anymore. We can now get that signal into our house. That's good for everybody. That means the cable company can't just keep raising my rate like they do every couple of months, and I've never seen the price, the price, I don't know, you guys, you get your cable bill, the price just keeps going up. Believe me, I'm happy somebody's gonna put 5G. I mean, I can't wait to tell them, get that thing out of my house. But we're not gonna make the technology go away. That's a genie that's out of the bottle, so we gotta look forward to the benefits that it brings.
Sir, you did make one point that I do want to ask you about. In your opinion, if the tower was disguised to look like a tree, would that be more palatable to you and your neighbor?
If that's the only option, yes, because the cell phone tower on Sandy kind of blends in. It's taller than every living tree, but it certainly blends in more than just a single pole sticking up.
Some of the other designs that have been presented are things that look like bell towers, flagpoles.
I've seen lots of different. I saw a church that had a cross, a giant cross in Clearwater.
Is that good or bad?
I'm not advocating for that, sir, because
Okay.
not everybody in Quail Hollow is a Christian. We have Hindus and Muslims as well. I wouldn't
So
want
you,
to
so you
offend
prefer a
them.
tree? You'd prefer a tree if you have to have a tower?
If you're going to have one, yes, find a responsible place for it and make it look like a tree. That would be, I think, a reasonable compromise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
I know
All right.
maybe, if I can just make a comment, I know
Yeah.
we have struggled with our cell service at Quail Hollow Elementary. I actually tried to get a cell tower there
Oh,
previously.
did you? Yes.
So.
And if
this-
I can spring off of my good friend over here, we in Wesley Chapel have had some problems in my community. In fact, it's so bad in our community, and we have one out by the airport that somebody had mentioned, that we have vendors coming into the community, and I asked them to send me an invoice, and they say, wait till we get out of the community, then we can send it. I want to make one more motion, and I hope this will help you too, because
We can't make any motions yet.
I know.
You can comment?
I misspoke on that one.
He means emotion.
One more point, thank you.
Okay.
We recently installed a brand-new air conditioning unit, and it comes with a high-tech thermostat. And guess what that thermostat is hooked up to?
Wi-Fi.
You're right,
Wi-Fi.
the Wi-Fi, and my cell phone. So,
Damn, you fancy.
not really, because it took me 3 days to figure that thing out.
He's cooling his house off right now.
I had to get my daughter to help me with it, and you know where she went to school at, so she showed me very quickly on how the system works. The point I'm getting to here is that technology moves fast, probably faster than I wish it would. And I know several months we had one about the cell tower at Land O'Lakes area, and you know how I all felt about that one, because I was definitely in the minority. And I may or may not be there today either, but I'm telling you, I wish you were put in a cell tower in my community. Did I mention about the one by the airport? Oh, by the way, it's by the airport, all right, but it's not in the glide path, and it was put there under protest a number of years ago by probably about 80% of the people that live in my community, because I didn't want it in a convenient location where I could have plugged in and used this and a thermostat that I currently have. I don't know if it's going to stay much longer. The point is, technology moves faster than I do, that's for sure. So I hope to hear something good from this gentleman here.
Okay, and I am assuming, I know you came on up, and that's fine, but I'm assuming everybody else has had a chance to speak. Everybody's spoken? Okay. All right, good. Hopefully you can
Denise,
address some of
there's
the
nobody
concerns.
on WebEx for this?
I have no one signed up on
Okay.
WebEx, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, James Johnston, Schutz and Bowen again, on behalf of the applicant. We appreciate all of your time this afternoon, all the time of the residents to come out. I do want to address, they made a lot of different comments. I'd like to go through and address them. And I know they got a little extra time, so I hope you'll be willing as I kind of go through my notes.
That's fine.
First, I think as someone pointed out, like Verizon always looks to co-locate on an existing structure first. We don't have to go through this. Faster, cheaper, but there has to be one available. Part of your requirements are you have to have a co-location letter saying, hey, we look to co-locate on an existing structure, tower, and we can't, and therefore that's why we need the new tower. That was the situation here. The closest tower is, I believe, 1.25 miles away, and Verizon is on that tower. And the way RF works, it's a design system, not an RF engineer, but I've heard enough speak. It's a design system where all the towers, all the Verizon antennas work with each other. And so here, as I know as part of your materials that were provided, you can see, they had the blue dots representing existing towers where Verizon was located, and then the yellow in the middle is where this is proposed to go. So what happens is there's a search ring area saying RF says there is a need in this area. It can be for both coverage and capacity. That was talked about. It's not just can you pick up your phone and make a call, like as the board talked about. It's the ability to then do your data. Obviously data has been the largest growing thing with cell service. And it's that you have good quality service, not just that you could get on the phone. And so there is a coverage and capacity gap in this area. So we have a search ring. This is the area that was found. You search a company, Verizon says, we need a tower in this general area. Now you go find a willing landowner and a property that works. So those are the factors that go in. It's not just we can go wherever we want. You have to find a willing landowner and say where they can go, on their property. And so, again, the closest is 1.25 miles away, and we are, this will serve Verizon's coverage and capacity gap. We have RF engineers. As was mentioned, the county has their own RF engineer who looks at, as an independent third party, looks at the application, says, do they need this tower here? Is it going to do what they say it's going to do? And your county experts looked at it and said, yes, it's needed, and it meets the code requirements.
So while you're on that point, and while these coverage maps are up, if you could explain them. So the precondition, if you could put the prior map back up, I don't know who's running this. So the green, I assume the green is your existing coverage, is that right?
Right, it's like existing good coverage, and then
so when you go to when you install the tower in that yellow dot.
Right.
Now, if you go to the next map, that's the approved coverage is the bigger green area. Is that accurate?
Correct. And again, it's not just that providing that coverage, it's also helping the whole system work better with the offloading of other towers as well.
So it relieves the other blue towers.
Correct. Correct.
And there was a statement made that this tower is not going to help. There was an allegation made that the tower is only going to help vacant land. Is that accurate?
No. I mean, again, Verizon wouldn't put up a tower just to serve vacant land. They don't. There's a need that RF engineers say we need it in here to serve our existing customers. It's based on the number of customers existing.
So it will improve service of all the residential development south of it.
I mean, typically antennas have 3 zones, and so they kind of go out in 3 areas, out like this towards the horizon. And so this again will serve. I mean, there is a lot of residential in that area. It will serve that residential in the surrounding area, as well as providing, helping with the data capacity through the offloading of the other towers. So I wanted to go into, there were a lot of, in the letters that were sent, some of the people mentioned the health, and I know, as you indicated and confirmed, that is something that was preempted or has been preempted by the FCC. They set a level of maximum RF exposure level, which is a pretty conservative amount. And then, all towers, the antennas for towers are under that maximum, and typically like hundreds of times lower. And so while this board, health is not something that you guys can really consider in the zoning context, I did want to say, this is something that is governed by FCC. We have to meet their standards, which are very conservative standards. It also, at a 150-foot tower, it goes out to the horizon. So at the ground level, it's even, as you get away from the antennas, the power is reduced. And so it's really hundreds, if not thousands times lower than what the FCC levels, they say, are the maximum levels they can be. There was environmental issues raised. Every tower wireless facility has to go through, as part of their FCC permitting, what's called a NEPA review. And NEPA stands for, it's a federal, didn't find it, National Environmental Policy Act, I think. Yeah, Policy Act. And so that includes review of many different things: wetlands, floodplain, Indian religious burial grounds, where they actually reach out and contact the tribes in the areas. It goes to historic things. It goes to, is it in a wildlife refuge? It goes to, the bugs and bunnies, those types of things. So we had to go through a NEPA review, and where this location was found to meet all the NEPA requirements. There was also a question about the watershed, and I think the question was raised by the board. I mean, this is really 80-foot by 80-foot compound area. It's a 100 by 100-foot lease area. The actual tower and, ground equipment's on an 80 by 80-foot compound. So we don't think there's any runoff issues. As far as a light, there is not a light. A light is not required on the tower by the FAA under 200 feet. And we have to get what is called an FAA no hazard to air navigation letter, which we did, saying there is no hazard to air navigation by this tower. And also your code requires it to go through the state FDOT as well, which was done. Again, as far as necessity, I think that question has been dealt with by Verizon's RF documentation that they submitted, as well as the no co-location opportunities, and then the review by the county's expert. I know it was also raised by the board. I mean, this is a necessity. These days, I think the latest I've seen is over 80% of all 911 calls are made with cell phones. So it's important to have good quality coverage. There's also something called the E911 system, which helps identify, where people are calling from on their cell phones. This will all help to improve that. As far as moving it on the site, again, we have a landowner who has said this is where we want you to be based on, there is a large portion of the property that is in the floodplain, that is in the wetlands, not this area. And so this area is a good area for the tower. And I would say they make it, the neighbors have said it's right on the road. Well, it's 100 feet. The tower's 100 feet back off the road in a, a well-wooded property. So there's going to be fairly significant existing trees between the tower and the roadway. As far as there was a question of liability if it collapses. I mean, these are engineered towers, are engineered with a break point to where they have an actual 50-foot fall radius. So they're designed, engineer certified fall radius to be on actually the lease parcel, but certainly on the parent parcel.
And to be clear, even if there was some damage caused, it would be on the tower company's liability, not
correct,
not the county's liability.
Correct. And I think one of the other comments that a lot of the people lived up to the north, and those houses are actually 0.85 miles from the tower location, so they will not be able to see it based on the ground level looking out towards it. And yes, as the point was made, to move it to the middle of the property, which again, we don't have the landowner's permission to do that, again, based on wetlands, floodplain, other stuff, that would bring it closer to their property. There's always, as was raised by the board, always someone that's going to be impacted more than others. If you move it here, someone else is going to move it over here. It's these people. This is a necessary service. It's needed as confirmed by the county's own expert. Just trying to hit on the last.
Do you know anything about the height? I was curious. Most of the other cases we've heard, they always come in at like 180 or 185 feet, and this one was much shorter than the others. It'll be like 150.
Right. Your code requirement is minimum height required to serve Verizon's needs. And so the 150-foot level, that's the top of the tower, so the Verizon antennas will be at that top level. That's what RF has said. That's the height we need to provide the coverage.
Will that affect the ability for other services to co-locate on that tower in the future?
No, I mean, people can, there are 3 other co-location spots on there. It's all up to the provider on what they need. Every provider is different as far as, where they have towers, where they have antennas, what their height need is there. But I mean, I think you go around enough, you see most towers, companies, providers will make it work if at all possible, because again, it's cheaper, easier to co-locate on a tower than.
Is it possible to add to the height of a tower?
I'm sorry?
Is it possible to add to the height of a tower after the fact? In other words, if AT&T came in and said, we want to locate on this tower, but it needs to be 10 feet taller before we'll do that, is that?
I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the code or talk to Denise. I mean, I know I think they're typically.
I'm asking from a technical perspective, not from our code.
Oh, for a technical, could you, no, that I don't know. You could probably take down the tower and put up a new one, a taller one, you know, if
I'm just
that
saying,
were the
if we
case.
didn't want a brand-new tower sitting up right
Right.
next to this one, but we wanted this one to be 10 feet taller to accommodate another provider, could that happen? You're saying you're not sure?
I'm not sure, like you're saying, add on to that tower, but that existing tower, you could certainly take it down and put up a taller tower to create that. Because once Verizon is there, that's their level they need to serve their customers. If you're saying, you know, have a taller tower where someone else goes above them, that's not going to interfere with Verizon's service.
Okay.
Did you want me to answer the question from a code perspective?
Sure.
Okay, so they can go up to an additional 10 feet without going through any additional changes. Going through another conditional use, for
Had
example.
anybody actually do that physically and make it?
I have seen that happen in the past, but I have not seen it so far happen on a monopole. I've seen it happen on a unipole in the past.
I think you could probably add 10 feet on a monopole, but that would probably be the extent of that, you know, from an engineering perspective, without replacing the pole with a new pole.
Okay, that answers my question, thank you.
So you said that it's going to be about 150 feet back. Did I hear that correctly? From the road?
The actual tower will be 100 feet back from the road.
Okay.
Which, and it has to meet, per code, it has to meet the zoning district setbacks, which is 50 feet, so it's going to be twice the zoning district setback from the front, 3 times the 25-foot setback from the west property line, and then 1,000 feet to the north, hundreds of feet.
And I understand the further back you go, the more expensive it is to provide egress to that property, as well as connections to internet, the trunk line that you need. But besides that, is there, did you say the property owner didn't want it to be located any further back? Property owner wanted to use the property?
Correct, and so that's what we're dealing with as well, because again, if you're talking about putting it smack dab in the middle of the property.
Well, I'm not even suggesting that. I'm suggesting, because you couldn't do that anyway because of wetlands,
Right.
but maybe a little further back on the front portion of the property. It looked like there was, when we had the wetland map up there, that there were some buildable areas that maybe were a little further back and would provide a little less visual impact to the people across the street. So that's why I was asking that question. I don't know if you have concept, but previous cases we've seen, we've had concepts of what the pole would look like.
And I think we did submit, as part of our application, we submitted.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the
We
packet.
did, yeah.
There's
there
full
is no view
construction
shed.
plans in the package.
Yeah, there is.
But there is no.
The construction plans are,
Conceptual
yes.
photographs.
Oh, photo
Yeah, there's
simulation?
no rendering.
There's no view shed analysis.
We'll show those, we'll show those.
You do, okay. So that was my next question.
So could you address the request to disguise it to look like a tree?
I mean, I haven't talked to my client about that. I would say typically most people, just in my experience, prefer a regular monopole tower than a tree, 150-foot tall monopine tree. I think a regular pole really looks better, and over time, and I know the neighbors don't want to hear this. I mean, think about you driving around. I mean, there are towers all over the place that people don't notice. And so I think a lot of people, in my experience over the years, have not liked the monopine
Denise,
tower.
the other case we had where it was on the golf course and the residents got to vote to determine which tower they liked better, which design, which did they choose?
They chose monopine.
The tree.
Yes.
So I'm not sure your statement's accurate, because we actually had a prior case where.
I think it's
they-
not necessarily when first, like, they think in concept, well, this would be great. I'm saying after the fact, monopines, I think generally.
Well, we provided photographs so they could see what it would look
Well,
like.
I would agree that
I agree too, yeah.
I quit
It
seeing
looks out of
towers
place.
after a while, but a tree,
It sticks up above the rest of the forest.
Yeah.
And
Did you ever see the one,
yeah.
you go down, it's
It
in the
looks very
city of
fake.
Tampa, right? So you're in amongst these
Right.
tall buildings, and then there's a
There's a-
monopine, and it sticks out like a
Yes.
sore thumb.
But a tower, you just.
The towers you don't know.
I mean, you see initially, but yeah.
The best disguised one I've ever seen is the bell tower that's on East Lake
Yes.
Road,
Yeah,
but
right.
that
That's a
is
good one.
quite elaborate.
Yes.
And also
it's
that
on a
can-
church, so.
That can impact the, how well the antennas worked when you're enclosing them within.
Well, and I think if we had bell towers proliferating everywhere, then there would just be just as
And then
many
in the middle
complaints
of
about
nowhere,
that too,
right.
so.
Denise,
Well, I
can we
just, I
see
just think we
those?
need to bear in mind that no matter what we think looks nice, the residents evidently might think differently, and they live there.
Well, I mean, that's why I asked Denise the question, because I was actually surprised. I didn't think that those residents at the golf course, there's a lot of them that voted. I didn't think they would vote for the monopine, but that's what they voted for. Now, you may be right that they may live to regret their vote, but, I mean, let me ask you a question a different way. Is there any technical reason it couldn't be a monopine?
I don't think there's a technical reason. Again, I think when you install the branches around the antennas, it probably reduces, the effectiveness of the antennas slightly to have that around it as opposed to just having your antennas out there. But I don't think there's any technical thing that would stop it from being monopine.
Yeah, so looking at these photos, my only concern would be the people that are right across the street from it, that obviously they're not here to object, but that's where I would think it would be the most visible. Even coming down the road like these show, it's not that bad, but for the people across the street, obviously if it was located further back on the property with the tree coverage that's there, you probably wouldn't be as noticeable. So aside from that, other areas, other developed, other homes in the area will not really see that property. So there was one other concern that somebody brought up. I believe it was in a letter talking about red lights. I think I know the answer to this question, but my understanding is it's under the minimum
There
height
will not be a
so
light.
there'd be no requirement for that.
Correct.
Yeah, and then also if you see in the analysis, item 13B, when it went to the FAA, they basically stated that marking and lighting is not required.
Right.
But they could do it on a voluntary basis, but it's not required.
That was one of the concerns that someone brought up too. And then I just want to make a comment too that, I'm not an engineer either, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night. So I did briefly study this in school. I was started off in electrical engineering. So some of the people brought up concerns about health concerns and things like that. There's a difference between ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. So the radio frequency falls on the spectrum, yes.
Yes.
It's safer than infrared light. So
Correct.
then you go to actually visible light, and then you start to get into the stuff that causes cancer. So in theory, radio frequency, unless there's a study that shows otherwise, radio frequency is less dangerous than visible light is when it comes to that. And you also have to keep in mind too, when you're using a cell phone, so it's a two-way communication. So the cell tower is generating radio frequency or radiation that goes out to that cell phone, but that cell phone has to generate an equal power radiation to go back to that mile or 2 miles or 3 miles of that tower. So, and we're holding that right to our heads. So it's, granted there's more power being generated there on the tower because
So
there's a lot more.
to second
requests.
your point, I actually have spoken to some experts on this issue, and they have said that to the extent it is danger, and there's no overwhelming evidence that it is, the cell phone is more dangerous than the
Correct.
tower is.
Right. You're talking 4 or 5 watts of radio power right next to your head. So.
And in addition, if you have a tower that's closer, that cell phone will put out less. Because
Correct.
it's only
Correct.
putting
It
out as
doesn't
much
have to
as it.
connect as far. That's why your battery goes down more
Right.
when there's less cell phone service.
And so now everybody
You should
sticks them in their
By the way,
ears.
remember these points. We have a
Yeah,
future
right.
tower coming up that you need to
It
remember
keeps
these
the
points.
cell phone away.
So, do you know, sir, if the location, so you said that the landowner, it's the preferred location in the southwest corner, but do you know if it ever was discussed, moving it up into that bare area? Was that specifically?
That's my understanding from the person who, the property site acquisition person, that they did talk about that, and the landowner said no.
Okay.
Again, based on, a lot of environmental issues with the wetlands and floodplain.
It doesn't look like it. I mean, looking at our mapper, that's all X up there. There's no floodplain issues. It's well outside of any wetland boundaries, just based on our mappers that we have available. So again, I mean, if that's a preference of the landowners in the area, and certainly, you know, the view shed that we just saw, the people that are right across the street are maybe, like the gentleman said, looking at their front window at a 150-foot
And
pole.
that's very possible, people right across the street.
Right,
Yet
exactly.
they're not here in opposition.
Correct.
Right.
And they did send mailings, and they did send all the notification to almost 100 residents, I think I counted on the list, and there was 6 or 7
So that's
people
duly
at the
noted.
neighborhood
I mean,
meeting,
that's-
so just
Can't be more
noted.
concerned than they are.
Right.
Well, and that would be my one concern about shifting it to a monopine is, I understand that gentleman wants it to be a monopine, but we don't know if the residents that are closest would want it to be a monopine, and without hearing from them, I would have some, in the other case that we looked at, we actually asked, there was a survey of the residents who were most affected, and they elected for it to be a monopine. It seems like that I have concerns about doing that when we have no idea what those people would want.
Are we able to approve the request with the condition they survey residents for the type of tower that they prefer? Within
I
something
mean,
that fits their technical
yes,
definition?
you can, because that was effectively what you did in the other case. But in this case, you'd have to kind of identify which residents you'd want them to survey,
So
because,
those with any visual impact to them.
I mean, the difference with the other cases, it was a very defined community, because it was a golf course right in the middle of that community. So it was very easy to identify who they should survey to determine the tower design. I don't know, it looks like there's a few different communities around this area. I don't know what
I would assume it could be determined which ones could possibly.
I mean, if
see
you're
it.
talking about the 10 lots that are immediately, 20, I don't know how many that are there, but I mean, if you're talking about the lots that are within 500 feet, or you could come up with the distance, you could ask them to survey.
Denise, in that case where they surveyed the residents, did the applicant come back to the BCC and voluntarily agree to do the monopine, or did the BCC impose it on them?
So, so the planning commission had a recommended condition after it was all said and done, as a recommendation to the board that basically said that the applicant is gonna come back, is gonna do a survey, is gonna survey the folks. These are the 4 different options. There was monopine, a bell tower, there were 4 different options, monopole.
Flagpole.
Right, and then basically that the applicant would install what the majority of the community. But what the applicant did is they asked for continuance so that they can survey and they can come to the board and say, we're putting a monopine because the community agreed to a monopine.
And then
So that's what happened.
I will just
Well, excuse
add-
me, was that the Land O'Lakes one with?
Yes,
the,
that's correct.
the golf course.
That was Plantation
Plantation
Palms.
Palms.
Well, they had an organized HOA there that could,
Yes,
community.
yes.
Would there be a problem doing the unipole that gets disguised
Yes.
as a flagpole here?
Yes, and the Verizon's antennas don't work in the unipole, and they cause overheating issues and other stuff.
Okay, so
And I think that was the other question.
I
last one,
don't
if I
have
remember
any
correctly.
expertise in that and can't tell you, but I can tell you that one of the commissioners the other day believes that problem is solved. So if you're gonna come make that claim before the BCC, you better bring somebody that can prove it.
And I told her that I don't think our consultant agrees with that point.
That's correct, and the reason why the commissioner believes the problem was solved is because the applicant who was advocating for having that stated on the record, who is not an RF consultant, that it works. So the land use attorney stated that.
And if you want to see one, we have one outside of our community by the airport, and they put a large flag on top of it, but the flag is gone and it doesn't work as effectively.
I'm not
as-
personally advocating for it. I'm
No.
just letting him know that one of the commissioners believes that that's the case. And I understand the RF guy may have an opinion, but I think what was going on there was that this was a relatively new technology, a way to cool the unipoles or whatever. I have no idea whether it works or it doesn't work, but
Well, in the other case at the golf course, the 4 options that were presented to the residents, none of them were a unipole.
None of them were uniform,
Yeah,
that's true,
what
you're
they
right,
proposed, I believe.
it was
because
not.
That wasn't an option.
And I will tell you that Commissioner Starkey did vote for that monopine tower.
yeah.
Denise, could you put the view shed back up for a second? Just on the.
The photo simulations?
Yeah, the
Okay.
photo analysis.
Sure.
I guess my point with that is that, when I looked at that is pretty quick, but I mean, it looks like there is fairly significant visual impact to those folks, and it looks like it's maybe 10 or 12 lots that are right on whatever that is there, Green Willow Run, that are most visually impacted by that. So, I mean, to the point of shielding that tower or whatever, it does appear almost to me that that would be to canvas those lots there. It looks like it's pretty limited. And the folks that are up north that spoke, I mean, they're over a mile away almost from the tower. They're not going to see it on the horizon from their house. But these folks down here are definitely directly impacted by it.
We're having technical difficulties, so
Okay.
please bear with
Yeah, I
us.
mean, I
Thank you.
stated my point. It's from there, but it's to David's point about the what that tower is going to look like in the end. Just reinforcing that. So, I mean, it looks like there's, again, maybe 10 or 12 lots down there. I mean, is that accomplishable to do before this goes in front of the board?
I think it'd be sensible to do something like what we did before, approve it subject to a survey of people who are within 500 feet of the proposed tower.
So what happens if it comes back and 3 people, let's say there's 12, and 3 people want all 4 different towers?
So
I mean, I think we're setting a bad precedent in requiring somebody to go take a survey of the neighborhood to find out what they want.
I think the one difference that I'm seeing is in the particular case that we're talking about, the attorney showed us, okay, this is the Carillon, this is the Unipole, this is the Monopine. We're not seeing what offerings this particular applicant can bring to the table, so I don't know what those are.
Right.
I mean, personally, I know they would like to go with the monopole tower. I think if there were any alternative, it would be the Monopine, and that would be the only other viable alternative.
And looking at that concept picture there, a monopine would be way more visible in my opinion.
For sure.
I agree.
But we don't live there, so I'm just saying.
Right.
Well, again, all we're doing is making a recommendation to the board, correct?
But to be clear, the condition actually said plurality. It did not say majority. So it would be whichever one got the most votes.
Right.
But there's nothing, but we were presented with 4 options that the residents would get to choose from. What I'm saying is we
Yeah,
haven't
but for that one, yeah.
presented with some options here, and I don't know if one monopine is the same as all monopines, or, clear. In fact, I remember making the comment when the attorney showed us the picture of the bell tower Carillon. I didn't particularly like that one because I have the one envisioned down on East Lake Road in my mind. So there can be different ways that can be done. And just we haven't seen what offering could be made here. I'm not sure that.
Well, it's really just the Carillon or the tree.
Right. What I'm saying is your image or your idea, my idea of the Carillon was what was on East Lake. When they presented a picture of a Carillon, it didn't look anything like what's on East Lake. So
Sure.
Right, because what they were proposing on that one was a shroud, they called it a shrouded monopole.
Right.
And I would just put one last point is in your code, it does specifically recognize a monopole as having less adverse visual impact than alternative tower designs.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Any other questions?
No, I don't think so. I think we've all stated our opinions.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve it with conditions as recommended by the staff.
I'll second that.
So to be clear, that does not include any
Not
additional
including the
condition
survey,
dealing
correct.
with its appearance. The staff recommendation was for a monopole, so that's what your motion is.
Correct.
Okay, we have it. And you second it?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign, nay. So, I don't, is there a need for a roll call?
There was no need.
You're the only nay.
It was me.
Oh, you, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were calling for names.
No.
Yeah, okay. Only if you want a roll call. I think the clerk got that you voted no.
Okay.
Right? The clerk got the no vote? You got that there was one no vote, correct?
I did not.
Did you want a roll call?
Yes.
All right.
See there?
Aye.
Mr. Derek Collins.
Aye.
Mr. Peter Hansel.
Aye.
Mr. John Moody.
Aye.
Mr. Christopher Poole.
Aye.
Mr. Chris Williams.
I don't vote.
Chairman Charles Gray.
Nay.
5-1.
Okay, before you move to adjourn, two things. And one is, for those who have not pointing anybody out, please return the iPads because they're going to be replaced with Dell laptops. So I just want to gather those from you and the accessories. So next time we'll see each other. For those I haven't received them from, please return your iPads.
Jamie.
Secondly, no, I'm
Thanks,
not
Denise.
calling anybody out, I promise you. It was not meant to be.
Chair did that for you.
So the second thing is, on August 25th, you should have received an email that came from someone in our office inviting you to a planning official training, which is going to take place on September 26th from 9 a.m. to 3:45. So if you would please RSVP for that, so that way we know how many folks are going to be there, because we are going to provide lunch and drinks and things like that.
The RSVP, yes.
Okay.
I
do
do
too.
have one question for David.
Yes.
Does that need to be advertised? Is that a sunshine law issue? It's going to be the planning commission, the commissioners?
Yes, I think it should be. It's the equivalent of a workshop.
Yeah.
So our workshops are
What time?
advertised sunshine law meetings. So-
What time?
What time?
It is at 9 a.m.
What's the date?
in the Internal Services Building, September 26th, Tuesday, from 9 a.m. to 3:45 p.m.
Will you resend that message?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yes, I will
I'm sorry,
send that to you.
I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know why.
It came from, because I do see the both of you on
What
the
is
email.
what's the title of the email?
The title is Planning Official Training, and that came from Jennifer Thornell, August 25th, 2023 at 1:27 in the afternoon. But I will definitely forward it to you again, so that'll be at the top of your box.
Right, thank you.
It's at the West Pasco Government Center on that compound in the Internal Services Building. For those of you who've been here quite some time, it's where utilities used to be, but it's the back building.
So it's
Now it's called
behind
the
that
Internal
back building,
Services.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to teach us about the law, David.
Well, maybe I'll show up and see if
Good.
I agree with what you said.
I'm hoping you will.
I think you should show up. definitely.
David was also invited, so I'm sure he'll be there. So the topics that are going to be covered are comprehensive planning and zoning, public participation, water resources, planning law, and real estate and planning. So, thank you. That's what I have.
Good time to be had by all.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
It's a lot to cram in, those 7.5 hours.
That's
6.5
right.
hours.
You get your
Especially
CDs
with a
right
3-hour
there.
lunch.
Very nice.
Mr. Chair,
David.
motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
In a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Pasco County waterways and wildlife depend on you to keep them healthy. Excess fertilizer, grass clippings, trash,